Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Animo podcast. Today I have Craig Hawkins of TESTALONGA. You'll be very thankful that he's going to do most of the talking in this episode. We're going to go through all of his wines that he makes under the TESTALONGA label, including the Mielie range, the Baby Bandito range, the El Bandito range, and the very, very new Bandits Kloof range. Stick around. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks, David.
Good to have you here. For those of you who don't know TESTALONGA, I'm not sure why you're watching this, but for those who don't know, talk to us about TESTALONGA. Just a rough sort of synopsis of your time up until now. Essentially what we're going to do today, guys, is let Craig talk about each of his wines that he makes, and so we can better understand the labels, the thinking behind it, where they come from, the vineyards, the vinification, and maybe what the future is. Yep. So, Craig.
Well, thanks, David, for having me here. It's always good to come down to Animo HQ and share a beer with you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So TESTALONGA, I mean, we started, when I say we, it's Carla and I. Mm-hmm. It's always Carla and I. We started in 2008. I started with a couple of barrels of skin contact Shannon. Mm-hmm. At that stage, I was working for Mr. Sadi, Ibn Sadi. I was fresh out of university. I did my final year at university. I did my practical with him. I was very fortunate. That was my introduction to the Swartland and how we came into the region.
Okay.
And I loved it. At that stage, I wanted to just...
How did you end up at Hotel Sadi?
Yeah, my older brother Neil, he makes wine.
Okay.
He lives in Australia for all of his sins. We miss you. But
just a direct swap, essentially.
Yeah. But he was at that stage working at a farm called Wittenberg, and during my practical years, I was doing my practicals with him in the vineyard and in the cellar, which was how I just needed money for beer, really, and yes. He was an obvious choice. So I used to work for him, and then all that money saved, we'd take a road trip and we'd go up the East Coast. It was awesome, just exploring our own country. But then I started to get a bit more serious about it, and I asked him who's the kind of most out there guy. This is back in 2005 in South Africa. So Ibn had just been going about 4 years, and the first name immediately just said Ibn Sadi. I didn't know where that was, what that was, and he ended up being in the Swartland. So I literally just...
Why did you want to like go to the most out there guy? What was that?
I wanted to...
You're a bit of a contrarian at heart, are you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I am quite, in the words of Tom Libbert, quite obtuse. He called me an obtuse MF. But you
can swear. It's right. There's no such.
I don't like swearing on camera. It's a weird thing.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I started getting big into wine in like 2004, 2005, and I asked him, Neil, like where should I wanted to explore wine, and like who's the most like eccentric guy to learn from. I'm not from a winemaking family, so that's probably the obvious reason. Is that I just didn't want to be run-of-the-mill working for your run-of-the-mill company 9 to 5. I wanted to see the interesting side of wine. So I immediately just picked up the phone and phoned him. It was my first day back at varsity, so like we had a massive party the night before. Could hardly talk. I had the cane and cream soda still burning in my throat. I'll never forget it. I was in the cubicle in the toilet. For some reason, I was in the toilet, so there's like an echo. So I'm trying to talk. And he's like, hello, Evan speaking. And I was like, Craig. And then he's like, yeah, no, I think we can. It was really random. And he literally said, yeah, we're looking for a young guy. Let's come meet and let's see. So it was actually, like now, when I look back on it, I mean, obviously he's super famous and stuff, so it would have been... like now that's unheard of almost. So it was cool, but then he took me kind of under his wing. I slept on his couch and stuff, and in return I worked harvest and stuff, and through him I met Dirk Newport, who ended up being a massive mentor for me. He had contacts to Tom Libbert as well, who's those are my two kind of 3 guiding lights in the beginning. And so my first proper job was in Austria actually, working for Dirk Newport in Dorley Moor. It's now just Dorley Moor's company. That's his ex-wife, but she's doing a brilliant job there. So I learned a hell of a lot from her as well, and then I worked in the Roussillon for Tom Libbert. So between those 3-4 people, I've really learned a lot about kind of...
So you're doing sort of Northern Hemisphere harvest there, and then coming back and working for Evan, is that right? Or?
Yeah, that's right. So I've got an Irish passport from my grandfather's side, and I traveled back. I was doing 6 months here, 6 months there, and just coming backwards and forwards. And in between that, that's obviously where I met Carla, my wife, in 2007, 2008, and that was when she was working on the farm next door to Evan, and that was how we met.
Yep.
And she's the daughter of Paul Kretzel, who was at that stage owned shares in Lumbertook.
The literal girl next door.
The literal girl next door, yeah.
Okay.
So we used to make excuses to see who could go there to.
Okay, right.
If you want tea or something. And
Yeah.
no, so it was slim pickings back then.
Yeah.
But luckily the pickings were
You
great.
fought everyone else off. Everyone ran out of sugar at the same time and had to go to the Kretzel's house.
It was great. I remember, I'll never forget that actually with Carla. I said to her one day, she doesn't know that I was flirting with her. She was a bit dense, but I said to her, take me to every bar.
You were very subtle, were you?
I said, let's go to every bar in Malmesbury. Show me, because Malmesbury, for those on the camera that don't know, is a bit like your backwater town in somewhere.
It's not exactly a thriving metropolis, is it?
No. And being English speaking, it's a very Afrikaans speaking place. You go there. The last final bar we went to, they wouldn't serve me beer because I was English.
Nice.
I was wearing an Irish T-shirt at that stage, so maybe that didn't help. But it was fun. But she still didn't realize I was trying to hit on her. And then eventually,
after 10 beers,
2 weeks later, we went for dinner, and
she kind of got the picture.
She got the message.
Okay, right.
But that's the beauty of the Swartland as well. I mean, it's a very slow-paced place.
Yes.
In terms of life, but in terms of wine, it's very fast. There's a lot happening.
Yes.
And there's a lot of want of a better word, revolutionary things that happened back then. And now I think we're moving forward quite nicely as a region. I was influenced just by whatever I felt grabbed my attention. I had no idea what I liked. I remember Brian McRoberts, who makes wine in Rioja, he said to me, he was based in the Swartland back then, and he said, do you even know what wine you like? And it was a brilliant question because I didn't. And that was 06, 07. I had no idea. I mean, how do you know? So you can't pretend, so I went traveling and I went tasting and drinking as much as possible from a wide, varied range of wines. And it was in 2000, my epiphany moment, there were two. The first one was I was traveling up the Northern Rhone. I was at that stage working for Stéphane Augier in Cortez, going up north. And Benjamin Joliveau, a very good friend of mine, he makes wine in the Loire Valley. And he knows me very well. We work together in the vineyards. And he knew that I'm a bit different and looking for different things.
You're a bit special, were you, Craig?
Yeah, a little bit. But he knew that I wasn't looking for run of mill. And we visited all the famous estates, amazing wines. But nothing really grabbed my attention. And then he said, you need to go visit this producer. And it was this really backwater town in Chevigny now, which is quite a famous region in the Loire, so Touraine. A producer called Domaine de Bois Lucas. That's the cellar. I don't think they make wine anymore, but at that stage it was the cellar master there was Pascal Potet, who's one of my heroes, and Noëlla Morentin, who make two of in the natural wine world quite icons. And Junko Arai was the Japanese kind of glue between them. She owned the company. And there was when we had just been tasting. We went to Vacheron, Alphonse Mello. We were tasting around, and then we went to this place, and she was giving us these wine out of the barrels. And I'll never forget my brother's face because it was like drinking battery water. It was so acidic, and it was my brother just couldn't stop laughing. You know when you have the conversation with someone and you can't stop laughing? It was that moment. And then, it was I felt a bit rude because my brother's trying to hold it in because it was drinking really something that wasn't right. But then
just something outrageous.
But then she came and opened a bottle, poured it for my brother. So this is obviously the finished wine. And it was unbelievable. It blew my mind. And my brother's face just went dead. He's like, what the fuck? This is amazing. And it was incredible. It was a Sauvignon Blanc from their region, but it had gone through Mallow, no sulfur, no nothing. It was unbelievable. And we bought quite a few cases. We misheard her because we thought it was we said how much, she said no. We thought she said 30 euros a bottle. But it was actually 10 euros, 13 euros or something.
Yeah, right.
So we bought quite a bit. I saw it and it was amazing. But that was the moment I realized, okay, why is this wine like this? Why is it unlike anything I've ever tasted? And that was when,
the penny sort of dropped.
Yeah, but those two, Noëlla and Pascal, those were the two icons. And they, the natural wine world, very high up there. I didn't know, obviously, who they were. This is quite back in the day. But from there, we asked questions, and I discovered obviously it's about how you farm, and obviously the transition cellar. You got to let the wine. You can't force it into bottle. You got to let it do its thing.
So it's an interesting not revelation. It's an interesting point that you fell in love with the results first rather than the process.
Yeah, and that made sense to me as well because in general, everybody's got their families to feed. Everybody's got their jobs to do, but I was looking more for that end result and how you get there, because you can follow a recipe and you can get there, but there's no recipe. It's kind of, you got to, each vintage was different.
Yes.
They were beautiful wines. Some definitely had some faults, but when it was right, it was right. So that was when I came back to South Africa, I realized, okay, that's the path I want to follow. And I had the same results. I had some brilliant vintages and some mixed bags, interesting wines.
Quote unquote. Yeah.
So it made
the most dangerous word in wine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Now I quickly learned that interesting is not a good thing. But yeah, so that was the one epiphany moment. Otherwise, when I was
So did you taste those wines and immediately think, I need to go and make something, along these lines, or?
I knew that's the way I'm going to go.
Okay.
And because I was always organically inclined. At varsity, there was one page on organic farming, and I always said to my university professors, like, why, and it was, now there's, that was in 04, 05, now there's a lot more on it. I just think you need to give the whole picture if you're teaching students, and not just one spectrum of it, and to their credit, they've done it really, really well. Stellenbosch University is doing exceptionally well. And then I was working for Remy Pedrino, and he poured me a bottle of Skin Contact Vermentino from Mr. Antonio Perino, which is aka TESTALONGA, and that blew my mind. It was Skin Contact Vermentino, unlike any other wine I've ever tasted. So that was in the same year. So we had this two thing. Then I really realized, okay, this is where I'm going.
And what was it about that wine in particular that?
The fact that it was Skin Contact.
Did you know that when you tried it?
Yeah, he told me.
Okay.
He said, this is a white wine made like a red wine. And I was like,
why the fuck would you do that?
Exactly. Why would you do that? And why have I never heard of this
And
before?
why is it so delicious?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And why have I never heard of it before? Because like at the university, they tell you press the grapes, you throw the skins away.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yep.
You don't think twice about it. So obviously then I did think twice about it. And I asked him if I can use his nickname on the label, but also TESTALONGA is a bandit from Sicily, so I called the wine Bandito. And it was nice. In South Africa, it's the first skin macerated white wine in South Africa. That and at that stage I didn't know that. And we made one wine, and then I realized
it was 2008 vintage.
2008, yeah. Back then, Albert Arends, who was the winemaker at Lammerzoek then, he said, but this is great, but how are you going to sell it? And I was like, he's got a point.
Good point.
Because I sold my mother 6 bottles. Actually, I gave her 6 bottles.
Yeah,
easy.
right.
There was my very first...
You didn't get Carla to buy some?
Yeah, no. I never forget. I put that actually wine in a blind tasting with Benjamin Joliveau from Domaine Hewitt.
Yes.
And this is in 2009. And he was at that stage in South Africa traveling, and it was a whole flight of Shennons. And then I put that one in there. Cause and I remember he got to that, he's like, he pushed the glass away. He's like, what the fuck is that? He's like, this is it. Because we were marking it. Then he realized it was my wine. Then he's like, oh, okay. But it was interesting. But now it's like kind of more accepted.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of
but
fun.
also you may have got a little bit better at it perhaps as well.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we definitely refined it. But 08, 09, we definitely got better at it. That's. But from the selling point of view, Albert was right, because in South Africa I couldn't sell it.
Yes.
But there were lots of people interested. But that's what led me to Lekker ultimately. And that's why I have no, Chris Molyneux from Molyneux Family Wines. I mean, he had also just started his brand then, and he knew Doug Reg from Lekker, and he said, I've got a guy, he tasted the wines, he said, I think this guy will be interested to you.
Yeah, right.
And that's actually my connection.
Yeah.
He put me in touch with Doug, and through Lekker, a lot came out. They were massive to what we do. They're integral to our business, actually.
And a lot of other businesses.
A lot of other guys. Yeah, they look after us. There's a massive family thing there. So, yeah, and that was that. And then we led to export, and then you came along. in 2013,
there's some
14,
years.
yeah.
There's some years in between, but yeah.
In between, yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm talking more from the business side.
Yeah.
You yourself and Jeanette, when I first met you, I realized, okay, here's people that we can work with, because I live in the sticks. I can't sell wine. You know, it's a pain in the ass to go out and deliver wine and this and that. And I needed people that get us.
Yes.
And you guys did. So that was where that came along. And I remember it was at the Craven's wedding when I said, can we work together?
Cool. So you married Carla, or Carla married you? I'm not sure which.
So we got married in 2015.
Who made the decision?
Yeah, so I told.
Were you just informed you were going to get married, or?
No, we were staying together for obviously a long time, and Paul.
You worked for her old man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember Paul at Lamazuk. At that stage, I mean.
So you went from the girl next door to the boss's daughter.
Yeah, no, it was okay. So put it in perspective. My first 2 barrels were made at Evan cellar, and then I aged them at Andrew Whiteman's cellar, actually, where he's now working, where Albert Orange was living, and he kindly let me, who was the winemaker at Lamazuk. So it all got a bit
incestuous,
awkward. But then Paul asked me to come and make the wines here. What do you think? And I said, well, no. I said, no. Can I have 2 months time to think about it? Because obviously it gets difficult. It doesn't look great, you know, the boss's daughter, the boyfriend coming in. But Paul, you know, this is where I'm going to have a special word for the man. He's a brilliant. Yeah, there he is. He's you know, he always backed me.
He's probably driving a truck over something right now.
He's definitely reversing the buckets of war.
What was that?
No, he's not the world's best driver, but you know, he's definitely an ideas man.
Yes.
And he understands. He's a leader in his own way in terms of like he let me. So long story short is that I said yes, I'll come and work for you, but I still obviously I always knew I was going to do TESTALONGA as forever, and I was upfront about that. I said I can carry on with that, but also we convert the whole farm, which is at Lamazuk at that stage was 70 hectares of vineyard, which is a lot.
So not
to organic.
Yeah.
And for me, I was 26. The world's I can do anything.
Yes.
Luckily, we had the weather gods were on our side, so the first year was perfect, and we had no disease, and it was good. And he said yes, and he went with it, and he forever, you know, he forever supported our ideas, and I really respected that and loved that. And it worked. I think it.
I mean, without his support, it wouldn't have.
No, definitely not. No, and his guys. I mean, he lives with us on the farm.
Yeah.
Paul and Anna, Carla's mother, the folks, and he's forever a shoulder to lean on. Now, definitely, he's getting older now, but you know, he's words of wisdom, and just you know, he was the CEO of a top company back in the day, but you just, you know, you can. He's brutally honest. Let's put it that way. So he'll tell you if you're being shit, you're being shit. So, and I like that. I prefer that.
Not a lot of diplomacy in.
He doesn't tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And I like that. So I mean we have a very close relationship.
Cool.
I just think it's important to mention that there's the people around you that often make you who you are today.
Obviously. So what year did you leave Lamazuk?
So 2014, then our time at Lamazuk came to an end.
Okay.
Paul, they sold their shares to the German consortium.
Yep, to the new owners.
The new owners. And I realized then that TESTALONGA, it's the time for us to go on our own.
Okay.
So Carl and I obviously discussed it.
So just to keep, I don't want to interrupt you too much, but from 2008 first vintage to 2013, 2014, TESTALONGA wise, how much had you grown in terms of volume?
So quite a bit, but not huge amounts. But we started with 2 barrels. When I say 2 barrels, we started with 800 bottles, right?
Yep.
2008. And by 2014, we were doing about 15,000 bottles. Mm-hmm. So not huge.
Yeah, and that was the business on which you were going to rely on income for your family.
I realized then, I got to the stage that we were 20,000 bottles that we could be fine on our own, and we were ready to take that risk, that big risk that everybody takes or doesn't take in their life.
Yes.
I was 32, and I approached Doug Regg. Mm-hmm. I approached a couple of my other importers, and I said to them, "This is where I want to go. This is what we're thinking. We're looking at buying some land. We've got access to some vineyards where we can grow. I'm going to introduce baby Bandito. We can
talk about that with the baby Bandito. Yeah, for sure.
We're going to introduce wines.
Yep.
Different wines. You know, we need you. Go for it. Obviously, they didn't give us money.
Please continue to buy our wines, essentially. Yeah.
No, but I mean, will you support us? And they said, we're behind you 100%. Obviously, no one loaned us money or anything, but we we did it. And we found the property, which is now Bandits Kloof on the farm. There was nothing there, and that's
So where is Bandits Kloof?
So Bandits Kloof is 120 kilometers north of where we were living, north of Malmesbury.
North of Malmesbury?
Towards the, if you just drive straight up north, the west coast on your left, towards Namibia, drive 120 kilometers from Malmesbury on your right. That's where we are.
Just before you hit Namibia, you turn right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
We're on the mountain range called Olifantsberg.
Okay. So just on the coastal side of the Citrus Dal Road, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So we right the Piccaninny's Cliff. That's basically where we are.
Okay, cool.
A beautiful part of the world. But the farm, no electricity. There's a beautiful old building which we lived in. Place to make wine. There was a cellar which we eventually converted. It's our cellar now. So for the first 3 years, first 6 months we lived with no electricity. We had generators, petrol generators. We were renting cellar space in Malmesbury. It's backwards and forwards, and then we eventually put in the cables. We did a lot ourselves. Pros and cons to that. We didn't have a lot of money. We still don't have a lot of money, but it was like we couldn't do what we're doing then now. It was a great learning experience. Cool. And 2017, the business then started to get a bit more momentum, and then we started planting vines 2018.
Cool.
And it kind of went from there.
Cool. We can talk about Bandits Kloof, the place, a little bit more when we've got Bandits Kloof wine.
Okay.
Before we get to these, I just want to ask you a quick question. You mentioned earlier the heavy hitters of the natural wine scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to me about where you see yourself in that scene. Are you still in that scene? Do you call yourself a natural wine producer? What's the...
Yeah, I mean, I will never go out there and say, hi, I'm Craig, I'm a natural winemaker.
Okay.
Like,
I make natural wine.
Yeah, because I think it's silly. I've never done that.
Okay.
I've been in that bracket,
yes.
and rightly so. Yeah. And I still am in that bracket.
You don't refuse or embrace the term?
No, it's just natural wine is natural wine. It served its purpose, which was to kind of break the mold of the current wine. And like you correctly say in many conversations, it opened a lot of people up to farming better. The word natural is contentious. You can't define it. It's like saying I farm naturally. What the hell does that mean? You know, you make natural wine. I mean, I went on in the beginning, I was very, very dogmatic about it. I followed Pierre Jancu, the Open Racine's bar. I mean, these guys, Pierre Jancu, Terry Puzula, these guys were like, I don't get nervous meeting people, but those two guys I got nervous meeting because they really did a lot of good and things. And
a lot of heavy lifting in the early days, yeah.
Definitely. And Pierre Jancu, I mean, he opened the first natural wine bar in Paris. I stand to be corrected, but you know, he's got a website called More Than Organics, and I followed those guidelines to the T, and it worked really, really well for us. And yeah, but obviously, as you improve, your wines get more focused, and you find what works and what doesn't work, and we definitely are in that scene. But I don't want to bracket myself in any. I make wine, and my focus is quality. But I want to see natural wine has come second to the quality we're putting in the glass.
Okay. Is that I mean, you said you were dogmatic. Is that the relaxation of the dogmatic nature that you...
I think it's just as it becomes more...
Why was it were and not still...
Because it was new. And that's why it was... I followed
what's changed?
Not much. It's just that I'm ingrained... Nothing, really. I've just got better at it. And when it becomes part of your nature and something you do on a daily basis, you actually lose sight of the fact that if you were to have been doing this 10, 15 years ago, you would be seen as a crazy. But we're not, because it's become normalized. And I think that's...
Well, you were doing it 10, 15 years ago.
Exactly, and it was great.
Yes.
But there we go. I mean, the Bandits Kloof wine we'll get to is exactly the same way I made my very first wine.
Yeah, okay.
And that's 16 years ago. So, but the two are night and day almost.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's dear to my heart, these labels. We've introduced them.
So this is the Mielie?
The Mielie, yeah. For those in Afrikaans that don't know, Mielie is a corn cob. It's a Mielie is Afrikaans for corn cob, and it's also a term of endearment as well. It's like my daughter's name is Camilla, and at school they call her Millie, and I call her Mielie. So
And apparently those are two different words.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
Camilla became Millie, which became Mielie.
Yeah.
She's 5 years old, and we introduced this label actually sold it to my US importer, Dry Farm Wines, and that was something that really worked well there. But we started introducing it in South Africa, and it also took off quite nicely. So it's a way for us. All of our wines are single vineyard, single cultivar, but we had
For the Bandit wines, essentially.
yes, exactly. So, but the Mielie wine came about as we had, in the last couple of years, we've had bigger rains, bigger yielding vineyards. We plant more vines. We have young vines. You need a home for them. So this is the way to blend the sometimes younger vineyards or the wines that don't quite make the cut together and to make a delicious white and a red wine.
Yep.
And that was a home for it, as opposed to just not bottling it. And I think it's worked quite well.
You mentioned viticulture being
Yes.
organic. In the winery, what's your philosophy there? What are you doing? What you're not doing?
So, we're not adding. So, what we are doing, what we're not doing, I'm not adding.
Whichever way you
acid.
want to take
I'm
it.
not. Yeah, no, that's, I'm just confused myself. Is we don't add yeast acid. We're not adding anything except for a little bit of sulfur.
Okay.
If I feel the wines need a light filtration, I will do it.
Okay.
I've been experimenting with that since 2018, and I think it's worked well. It depends on the time and the lees, depends on the vessel, so that's comes with experience. But we don't do. There's no other stuff.
And you're having to manipulate temperature. You're having to cool things down or warm things
So
up.
my cellar is set at 15 degrees because we live in the Swartland. It's hot.
Yes.
You need cooling, so it's always at 15 degrees, 15 to 16, and that's where the ferments will happen at that. So, but I'm not physically cooling down these wines.
Yeah.
Only the pet nuts do I keep very cold in the beginning. We'll get to that. But
Yeah.
these wines, it's just ambient temperature in the cellar. Yeah, and they're delicious. This is
So the Mielie Green
Mielie Green. Yeah,
is what?
Mielie Green is Shannon. If you ever, for those that drink South African wines, if it's white and you don't know what it is, most likely it's going to be Shannon.
Yeah,
So,
it's 21% of the global vineyard, the national vineyard, not just the white vineyard, but the whole.
No, it's crazy. Yeah.
So one in every 5 hectares of vineyards in South Africa is Chenin Blanc.
So we have a wealth of old Shannon and young Shannon, but more old. So we're fortunate that. I actually think it's something taken for granted sometimes. But Shannon is like for me, one of the king of white grapes. I remember Terry Puzilo when I first met him in 2012. I did my skin contact was at the Real Wine Fair in London. He came and tasted. He's like, "But why would you do this with Shannon? This is like the," and he had a point. But I realized it's because but I think it's actually the perfect grape to do it because it's so noble.
Yes.
Anyway, we're digressing a bit.
It's noble, but it's not special here in the fact that it's so common.
Yeah, exactly. And we also need to realize that. So this is a blend of 3 vineyards. It's from the West Coast, Elands Bay, and then from the Paardeberg, there's 2 blocks there from Rick McCrindle on the Coffee Clip and Granite Soils. And this is fermented just in concrete tanks. So the way we work in the cellar is we have 2 bag presses, and I separate for easy explanation, the heads and the tails from a distilling perspective. So that very first juice, that very dirty, I put it into a tank, and the last hard pressing, I also put into the same tank, and I let that ferment. Sometimes it turns out better than the other stuff, but not always, 99% not. And so that I do with a lot of Shannon, and all the Shannon actually.
Are you destemming before pressing, or
A whole bunch. Go straight in there, pressed, and then it ferments dry, and I use that for topping or whatever, but when you have more grapes, I fermented a whole concrete tank full of that. And we have this, it came out, and it's delicious. It's got good acidity and everything. And so it's not just because you think it's going to be lesser quality doesn't mean it is. But the fact that it's 3 different vineyards blended together, I think you don't have the same quiet focus that you get like on the baby Banditos or the Al Banditos. And that you can see.
You don't blend normally. Is that an odd thing for you to do? Do you think is it a skill that you need to get better at, or what's the?
Yeah, you learn it every time. I think it's at the end of the day, it's about making a delicious wine. And if that is a blend, then that's a blend. Yeah, so that's what we do with that. So that's
it's insightful.
I'll keep it simple. I do keep it simple.
Okay, and the Magenta
Yeah, so this is called Mielie Magenta. Magenta is a great name because that's the color of it. It was actually Ramsey from Dry Farms. It was originally going to be called Mielie Purple, but he's like, no, it sounds too much like Asian purple, which is the stuff you add to wine. I didn't know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He knew. So we called it Mielie Magenta, and this is Grenache. So a blend of a couple of vineyards of Grenache from the Swartland. We have some young Grenache on the farm as well, which is beautiful, but being only 4 years old, 5 year in this vintage, the fifth harvest or 5th year, second harvest, it wasn't quite on the same level as, for instance, our white.
Okay.
And it made delicious wine, really delicious wine, but I didn't want to introduce another label into somewhere, Baby Bandito or this or that, this is the perfect home for it.
Cool.
And it's just a very delicious Grenache Noir. Light in color, and beautiful texture, a lot of fruit actually, but it's still got the tannin you get from.
Yeah, this light.
Yeah, very light. Yeah. So Grenache. There's a couple of clones in South Africa. This is the original clone, the GN70, which gives you this light skin, and that's transpires in the wine. And so obviously, when you're not adding anything to the wine, it doesn't give you. You got to really. You can only work with what you got. Mm-hmm. You can't. There's no other tools to work with it. And I think that's where natural farming, natural winemaking, organic farming. Actually, the way you farm is your tool to get what you want in the bottle, and that's hard.
And that, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because you need quality produce and quality ingredients to make wines such as this, because you have no shortcuts. There's no way to hide things, or so. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's where we're discovering on Bandits Kloof, the farm is. I don't quite know what we're going to get, but yes. I'm seeing from an early stage the whites. They're giving me the low pH in the bigger cities that I'm looking for, but the red, it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to start blending in grapes like Carignan, which is much higher acidity, to make a better wine.
Before Bandits Kloof, had you planted vines in any other? Did you plant vines on Lummershoek?
At Lummershoek a little bit, but it was not on the same. No, so yeah, we planted a hectare of Marsan, and I'd regrafted some Sauvignon over to Haaslevelé and stuff, but it's not like what we're doing now.
Yeah, okay.
So no, I didn't have much experience, so that was quite nerve-wracking. Okay. But they turned out well.
Very cool. We now have the Baby Bandito range. You said you alluded to it when you said you went out on your own from Lummershoek to go to TESTALONGA full time. Maybe talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, that was looking back on it, is a big step for us. There's massive risk obviously involved, but when you're young, I'm not particularly old, but when you in your late 20s, early 30s, you kind of basically when you don't have children, actually, you just go for it, and that's all you got. You have to make it work. So also what I love about this country is South Africa. I mean, we have our problems and stuff, but it's a country where if you really put your back into it and go for it, you can be rewarded. You just got to keep going. So, but it was the conversation around the Baby Bandito was the original concept was with Doug Rigg. It's the bar. It's still my favorite wine bar, but it's obviously no longer exists in Covent Garden. Called Green Man French Horn. They only sold wines from the Loire and our Cortez, which was nice of Doug. But there, I used to go there every night without fail. Like we go there, we had a lot of parties there. But I sat there with Doug. We had like a meeting, and I said, "Can we? This is what I plan, and I'm gonna the Baby Bandito. Like, what do I need to do? I've got these vineyards, and like I need obviously a wine by the glass price point and." So there's that business side as well, but it's also, it's a home for these vineyards. I said I've got access to these vineyards, and we can, really make a go of it. So that was he backed me, and gave me the confidence to do it. So we went ahead with it in 2015. We started with the Folio Dreams, the Stay Brave, and the Keep on Punching. So if you haven't noticed, I mean, I do the labels myself. So it's either photos I've taken, Carla, my brother, or in some places it's friends. My brother took this photo in Cambodia back in '08. He's an avid photographer. There's a big dispute over who took the photo, either it was him or his wife Kim. As soon as the wine became a bit more well known,
Kim jumped
Kim
on
took
board
the
pretty
photo.
quickly.
So I don't know, I let them find it out. But I was looking for an inspiration for a wine, and like a very powerful photo that's sent a message. And framed in his house, I walked in, there's this on his wall, but it's a big like piece. And so I got the original, I zoomed in and just on her face and made it this kind of centerpiece. And she's got a plaster. I love street art back then. It's still big, but it was quite big back then. That's why one of the reasons I love going to Paris and
You have a bit of a history of it.
London.
As well,
I did art at school.
Yeah.
That's about it. But I love the theory side of art as well. There's a lot of ties. I like the history of art was fascinating. I think it's still amazing what a lot of these guys did. And anyway, but I do like modern art and street art. I like color. So I put words of inspiration. So you have keep on punching, stay brave, chin up, follow your dreams.
was that messages to yourself? Or?
Pretty much. It was synonymous to the time as well.
Yeah.
No, there was definitely a time of that, like keep on punching. My friend Lyle White, we played hockey together, but he was always banging on about keeping on punching, being positive. He's a very positive guy, so it was about being positive.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good message, and we get so much positive feedback on these labels and on these wines from people, and that's really endearing and heartwarming. That's what we want to do. We want to put a smile on people's faces. And that's kind
so
of...
why, I mean, obviously you said you wanted them to be maybe more accessible at a price point by the glass options. Are these made in higher quantities than the Bandito range, like the original wines, or what separates them? How do you choose, like when you saw when you came across the vineyard for Keep on Punching, how did you decide that it's going to be a baby Bandito wine rather than Bandito wine?
So it's about quality first. I think these vineyards are, even though like the Keep on Punching is my oldest vineyard that we work with, the first vintage of this actually came from Andrew Whiteman's farm, and then the subsequent vintages came from where it comes from now. I'll get to that, but it was about the vineyards being not the most complex, but giving you still punching above their weight, for want of a better word. The idea was to try and over-deliver for the price as well. But I mean, that's the economic side. I mean, you're looking back on it, you don't go in thinking like that. You go in working with vineyards with what you've got, and then you grow into it, and you work with it. So,
but then the overwhelming thing between, like, I want to work with this vineyard. Obviously, it's being farmed organically, which
100%. So everything we work with growers. We work with 6 different growers, and then we farm our own vineyards. Everything has to be organic, and we don't have contracts or anything, but it's obviously a lot of handshake, because a contract at the end of the day means nothing. The guy just says, I'm not selling you grapes, what are you going to do? So we are who we are, and we respect the people we work with, and it goes both ways. So that's a non-negotiable for us. So it's one of the reasons why we struggled in the beginning to grow, because we don't own land. We didn't own land, and it's difficult for a young person to own land in South Africa because of the subdivision laws, and not a lot of people know that. But you can't just go, like in France, you can go buy a hectare of vineyards or half a hectare. In South Africa, if you want to buy that hectare, you have to buy the other 40 hectares attached to that title. And I think that's a very important thing for foreigners, if you're watching, to understand. That's why everybody rents vineyards. But we were fortunate to find some land, had no vineyards, but it was affordable and we could plant. So like the Keep on Punching vineyard, the late Carl Dunn, a good friend of ours, he made Skinny Legs. He passed away in 2016.
R.I.P.
Yeah, and we Jürgen and I we spoke to a couple of the people he was buying grapes from, and that happened to be this vineyard, which is in Moutonsouk, which ironically ended up being closest to our farm, the Bandits Kloof.
For those of us who don't live near Piketberg,
yes,
where is Moutonsouk?
So Moutonsouk is, as the crow flies, but there's not a lot of crows, so but it's
As the bullet flies?
As the bullet flies, yeah, probably. It's about 20 kilometers from us, but if you drive there, you have to drive around the mountain, so it's 50 kilometers.
Okay. In what direction? Sort of west or
west? Straight west.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
so
farm
towards the mountain, essentially.
towards the west coast. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Towards the mountain, and in there there's a valley, and it's called Mutonshoek.
Okay.
And in there is Benny van der Merwe and Jackie. They own the property, and I met Jackie first, and we broke the news, and then I realized, there's 6 hectares of Shannon, and they were selling it to the co-op back then, and it was beautiful, 1961-year-old Shannon. It's like a wealth of old vines, and still yielding nicely because of
the 60 years old now. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And they're yielding, by South African terms, that's quite old. Next to a river, so there's a lot of water in the soil. So I said, well, we'll start taking some grapes. And the first year I took a little bit, and now we take all of it. And we work with it, and it's a nice relationship, actually. It's a really nice relationship. And it's a nice connection also with Carl as well. And, there's that side to it as well.
So being near Piketberg, I'm assuming that's on like sandstone-based
very
soil?
sandy soils. Yeah. So we call it in South Africa the Table Mountain Sandstone, which is very sandstone, so it's derived from sand. So when it decomposes, you have a lot of sand and high silica content.
Yes.
So it's very, very sandy soils, but so the water obviously goes through it. But that's why you need this vineyard's at the bottom of the mountain, so there's a lot more water there. So it's obviously on the mountain you have much more variance of soil and the clay particles that hold it together, and you have more water retention. But yeah, that's.
So if you're going to describe the style of the wine in general, or the vineyard, I mean, I don't want to get too specific on vintage because.
Yeah, no. In general, this is just a Shannon. It's always very pure, pure Shannon. Which, when I say pure, means that there's big acidity. All of our wines, white wines, are just always based around acid. Yeah. Acid is the skeleton to what we do. I pick on acid, so I pick on taste. When the acid is ripe, I harvest. In South Africa, you can do that. In Austria, for instance, where I worked, it's a different story.
Yes, because you're always going to get sugar here. So it's not
exactly. We have the sun, so so you need to base everything around acidity. Obviously, because we're not adding anything in the cellar, you have to be even more on it. So they're always linear, big acidity, lemony, salty, mineral white wines. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. So
Stay Brave.
Stay Brave this is the introduction to like a gateway drug for skin contact wines. I call it that.
It's the marijuana.
Yeah, so we started.
Skin macerated white wine.
Our very first wine was orange wine, like I said, in 2008. 2015, we introduced the Baby, which is from Rick McCrindle. So it's on the Abbotsdale. So it's on the very gravelly, clay-based soils, iron-rich soils outside Malmesbury. Yep. So it gives you very opulent, fruit-forward flavors. So on its own, I think the Shannon is not as interesting. For instance, as to keep on punching, it doesn't have that core of acidity. So we use the skins to uplift the wine. It gives you like a soft texture to the wine, and that's what we're going for here, and it works really well. And we've actually had a massive response to this wine, particularly as the orange wine kind of boomed.
Because it's not super orange in the glass. It's not like an orange wine.
That's why we call it skin macerated white wines. So the skins, we use the skins as a tool to uplift the wine and not dominate it. Where in the beginning it was all about like wowing people and blowing their minds and showing like you're making them most crazy, but you quickly get bored of that, and you realize wine, what are we actually doing? So wine it's always been about complexity. So that's what we're trying to show here. Without the skin contact, this vineyard just doesn't hold up. Yeah. And
in terms of how you manage the skin contact, what's your guiding sort of philosophy there? So when it tastes good, press it.
Pretty much, that's it. Okay. So when it tastes good, pick it. When it tastes good, press it. But obviously,
it's kind of subjective.
It's exactly. So there's a lot of experience that comes with that. I'm by no means fully experienced, but we're definitely getting better at what we do and understanding our vineyards. I mean, that just comes with time. There's no substitute for experience in that regard. So I'm understanding, obviously you look, I have records of the previous vintages and lots of things that have happened and understanding, but our sweet spot is kind of around anywhere between 10 and 21 days. Okay. After that, we find you start to get maybe too much tannin extraction and you lose the joyfulness in the wine, the kind of uplifting. I want the wines to be zesty and uplifting. And
A bit like the phrases on the bottle, perhaps.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, you're catching on. You're a slow learner, but you're getting it.
10 years in, I'm kind of getting it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we after that, you don't try and overthink it.
Yeah.
After,
So I mean, it's an interesting question, like the 10 to 21 days. What are the biggest determinants of those times? Is it like a harvest? If it's a warm or dry harvest, it's less time? Or
yeah, definitely. So like in the last couple of vintages, we've had much more bigger, juicier berries. Where from 17 to 20, it was kind of those stressful years. The berries are a bit smaller, tighter. The wines
stressful because of heat and
and lack of water.
Yeah.
So the wines were much tighter, which I actually really love those vintages. The wines, I like those kind of stress vintages. But now we've had like really juicy vintages, so the wines reflect that, and particularly the skin contact.
So how are those days on skins changing?
So in a stressed year, you actually need shorter times on skins. So that's what I say. But in like these kind of vintages, you can go a bit longer. 14 odd days is good. It's also when it tastes good. I mean, there's no set recipe, but we generally get what we're looking for out of the wine.
And how are you managing the extraction? Is it like gentle and as calm as possible?
So our skin contacts are all we de-stem. I used to use a lot of stems but I find it gives too much in this country. So we de-stem it whole berry. It goes into open tanks, 2,000 liters, so very neutral, clean that we can work with. And then I add fermenting juice. Normally they keep on punching just to kickstart the ferments because the grapes are cold. They come in, I put them into my cold room, cool the grapes down to 6 degrees. Next day, early morning, 5:36, we start working them. And then I add a bucket of fermenting juice, get the ferment nice and healthy going. And then I close the tank up with a very thin plastic, and it stays in there. And then it actually ends up looking like a big balloon. The gas stays in there. And then I check on it obviously every day, smell it, check it's tasting clean. I try not to fiddle. I think fiddling is not always your friend. Just because you're doing something doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. So we've learned that over time.
And so plastic is there to protect the ferment? Or?
To keep the gas inside. And the gas is obviously antioxidant, there's CO2, but it's not carbonic maceration because it's just not.
Yeah.
The cells are broken and stuff.
Juice,
Yeah. But we will then, when I feel it needs to be mixed, generally I look at the skins and there's a lot of gut feeling.
Yeah, okay. And a lot of experience.
And experience as well. I'm tasting, and you've got to keep it healthy. I mix the tank. I just literally get in there and we mix it with our feet. Then I leave it again, and then I keep tasting. And then when I know around that time, when it's it's towards the middle end of the ferment is when you start extracting the most. Then I start to take it a bit more seriously. I look at it, and when I feel the tannin,
you switch on finally.
When I feel the tannin's good, I mix the tank again.
Yes.
The day before I'm going to press it, then we press it the next morning.
Okay.
And then from there's always a bit of sugar left that goes into another tank, any neutral tank, not wood. Ferments dry, then I put it into wherever it needs to go.
Okay. And what does that usually?
In this, it's concrete and fiberglass. In the other skin contacts, it's Fudra or 500 litre barrels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And chin up.
Chin up. So Cinsault. So kind of the really baby of all of our wines. It's Cinsault is a difficult grape in the Swartland, purely because it ripens very late, and this clone is low acid by nature. So you need to really.
Cinsault is a bit of a thing in South Africa, isn't it? Like
There's a lot of heritage.
A lot of it here.
As you know, a lot of heritage with the traditional blends. It was used in the old distal wines. The tussies to lift blends, and it was, which actually great wine. They can make, so it was used as a blending component. I like to showcase it on its own. This for me is a wine I think that we're still definitely working on to try and get better. A lot of in this vintage, very bruised fruit, but it can be very wild. The first vintages.
So what does a classic chin up look like or taste
just
like?
Juicy, bright in colour, and serve it chilled, and it's just very drinkable.
I mean, for those people who don't drink Cinsault every day.
Yeah, so a lot of fruit, my daughter's just got into understanding what potpourri is. I think that's a good example of it, that kind of dried rose petals,
Like dried flowers.
Dried flowers and stuff like that, Yeah.
Okay. And the fruit profile there?
Again, juicy fruit. Not too high acidity. I talk only for obviously our sensor.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of sensors there with bigger acidity, but this vineyard has lower acid. So we're trying to work on that and find ways to get more acidity.
Yeah. Is it Grenache sort of field of?
A little bit less.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite similar in that regard. But Grenache has a bit more grip to it, actually.
Yeah, right.
So
This
this
is
is
a lighter version.
a lighter version. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And how are you making this? Is it 100%?
Actually made identically to
Okay.
to the excuse me, they're exactly the same as the skin macerator whites.
Okay, cool.
This and the chin up, yeah, they made the same. We used to do a lot of stems on the Cinsault, but it just overpowered the wine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, this
And since it can be pH problematic, is that another issue with stems or?
yes, definitely.
Okay.
So you need to try and limit that. So if you have too many stems, it lifts that even more. So we're looking at maybe picking massive portions earlier with rosé and then blending back But yeah, we.
I mean, these are light wines, aren't they?
They are,
Yeah.
and that's what they're for. I mean, they're meant to serve chilled, drink by the glass, enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's why they're in the baby Bandito range, particularly. Okay. I think in this range, the two whites, will definitely age it quite nicely, quite a long time. The reds, I think, are for drinking in the first 2 years, and that's what they're made for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And Follow Your Dreams?
Follow Your Dreams.
One of the original baby Banditos?
Yeah, the first one was obviously 2015 it's Carrington, so it's the same vineyard. It's a vineyard I used to farm when I was at Lammerzoek, and that portion of the farm was sold to Andrew Whiteman, farmer out there, and he's become a good friend. So I've known this vineyard since 2010, and we've been working with it since 2015. Carrington is obviously quite a high acid grape, so it's perfect for what we want. And I use the stems to actually kind of soften the acidity or just give more texture.
Okay. Are you using all the stems every time, or?
I have done, in 2015, yes, it was just 16, 17 I experimented with not.
Okay.
But this year, since then I've gone full stems, yeah.
Yeah. Carrington isn't a common variety, unlike Shannon or Cinsault in South Africa. What was it about Carrington that sort of drew your attention?
Well, I mean, I've worked a lot overseas, obviously, and it's not rocket science. You just got to look at the climates similar to yours, which are the southern Rhone, the Roussillon, the Languedoc, to go down to the Sicily.
Yeah,
grapes
the northern Mediterranean.
Yeah, exactly. The northern Mediterranean. It's very similar climates. It's almost identical climates actually. Very warm, dry summers, hot, cool, wet winters. That's it. And so Carrington is in there. So I mean, they've done the groundwork for us that side. So we just need to kind of taper it and see what works for us. And it works really well here. It's got nice.
Then why isn't wine, in your opinion, why not more people using it? Is it just a familiarity thing? They're not familiar with it, or?
I think it comes down to the farmers as well. There's now you see a lot more guys will definitely start planting it as people, businesses grow and they can maybe buy land and start planting what they want, which is you're definitely seeing now. But like for your average farmer who sells his grapes to the co-op, Carrington is not as sexy as Pinot Noir or Cabernet or something like that.
So it just hasn't got the price.
I think it's
has a low price ceiling.
Economically dictated, exactly.
Okay.
And there's a lot of South Africa we have some great nurseries now. Bosman and Vititech, they both work with Ernita. They're really doing great stuff. So there's a lot more excellent plant material available. And we planted more of this on our farm.
Okay, cool.
It's definitely something that works well in the blend, but I like it on its own. It's not many straight Carringtons out there. So it's just aged in big Fudra, big 3,000 litre barrels, 2 of them. Yeah.
Cool. Any plans to add some baby Banditos along the
No,
way?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think no, I don't think so. I think we'll keep it as it is.
Keep it
the
tidy.
Four's good, yeah.
As Wilma Artie says.
Yeah. I mean, that's also why we started the Mielie, because I didn't want to dilute the babies and keep it in. If anything, maybe we start working with, like for instance, the Cinsault, maybe different vineyards or something.
Okay,
just to
just fine tune what you have rather than bring in more, because there's plenty more to come.
Yeah.
The El Bandito white wines, not the skin macerated white wines, just the pressed white wines, essentially. El Bandito, how is that different to Baby Bandito? Maybe, I've kind of gone through it again, but like maybe just...
El Bandito, it's simple. I mean, Baby Bandito are my vineyards from off the farm that are like an introduction to the El Bandito. So the El Bandito are my way more complex vineyards from single vineyards, obviously, from off the farm. So I just find these, whether it be 300 bottles like the Viognier or 3,000 bottles like the Cortez, these are vineyards that I think they just offer more complexity, a bit more depth than the Baby Bandito wines.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let's start with the Lords of Dogtown.
Yeah, so Lords of Dogtown, fascinating vineyard. I mean, that label a photo taken by my wife, by Carla, on our farm. These are our dogs, not dogs. These are our donkeys and our cows. I love the skateboarding movie Lords of Dogtown, but when we moved to the farm, these animals they used to come into our cellar and eat the boxes, and literally, I've got a photo of my dog and the donkey having a stare down in the cellar. But they run with my neighbor. He's got his big sheep farmer and cattle farmer, but I've given the cows we've kept, but the donkeys, they're with his herd of sheep. They love it. They have space, and they actually...
They're happier.
They're happier. They're known to keep the caracals and even leopard away from the herd for the young during lambing season, and they're happy, and they eat his boxes now, not mine. Yeah, but Lords of Dogtown, I mean, it's an old block of Shannon from the Paardeberg. We don't make much of it. We make 1,000 bottles, but this vineyard always gives me a little bit more kind of voluptuousness than the other wines. It's the acidity is slightly broader, if there is such a thing, but it's not. The wine's a little bit wider.
So less racy than the other ones?
Yeah, a little bit less racy. And I also add no sulfur to the wine.
Is that a pH thing, or is it?
No, not really. I think it's a vineyard thing.
Okay.
And I'm putting it in the oldest barrel I've got as well, so it gives you that kind of nuttiness as well. I'm also not adding sulfur at any stage, so the wine is very open. And I like it. It's been quite well received. I like it. And, because we make so many different Shannons, I'm trying to showcase what Shannon can do, and also the different sides to it. And I really enjoy this. Yeah.
We haven't really spoken about the Paardeberg much. I mean, we've spoken about it, but not sort of referenced what it is or where it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly important.
So the Paardeberg, I mean, it's just north of Cape Town, 45 minutes. But it's it's the southernmost tip of the Swartland. If you drive 120 kilometers north, you reach the northernmost tip, which is where we are. So it's a big region, but it's also it's a granite batholith. So that's what the technical term for it. It's an outcrop. So the second biggest outcrop of batholith of granite in the world is Paarl Mountain. An extension of that is the Paardeberg.
Okay.
They're very close to each other. Do you know where the biggest batholith is? Biggest single freestanding granite. You should know it.
That's not Ayers Rock, is it?
It's Ayers Rock.
Uluru, I should say.
It's Uluru, exactly.
Yes.
Ayers Rock. Exactly. I didn't know that either because it's red. But in photos.
Depends on what time of
Yeah. So anyway, that's quite interesting actually. I didn't. So there's a lot of granite in that subsoil, and that is the reason why the Paardeberg I think makes exceptional wines. There's that and it's the proximity to the ocean. The two linking. You have this.
So how far away from the ocean are you?
As a crow flies, 35.
Yeah. Okay.
K's, kilometers. So in miles, it's I don't know, times
20.
Something shorter even. So it's quicker in miles. But so and it gives you the saltiness. I think the Paardeberg will and already I think is there become a world-renowned area, rightly so.
It's kind of well on its way.
It's well on its way
for Shannon especially.
Exactly, and I think and that comes down to reference points. There's enough.
Very, very good wines coming out of
there. Enough people making reference points wines to do that. The reason I'm saying that is actually kind of like into my the old kickback with skin contact white wines. I was like, but it masks terroir, everything all tastes the same. But I always said back in the day that you just need more people doing it, and then you start to see reference points.
No, for sure.
For that. So
and if skin contact's a problem, then every red wine is a problem.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a non-argument. But I'm trying to just say that the Paardeberg, there's a lot of grey matter. A lot of people moved in there with good ideas, making different wines.
Yeah.
And you can see still the region speaks louder than the winemakers.
Yes, there's a lot of synapses firing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a special decomposed granite that gives you this saltiness in the wine.
And I don't want to go too deep in Paardeberg terroir, but
Okay, let's stop then.
okay, yeah. But I went a little deeper. How variable is it from? So I know there's different little kloofs
Yeah.
and little valleys and stuff.
So on the Swartland side of the Paardeberg, which faces north,
Yeah.
you have 3 valleys basically. You have the Sieberts Kloof, which is where Artie, Jasper, Peter, you're right, those guys
So that's
are.
the most westerly one.
Facing the desert, the westerly, furthest from the ocean, if you're
Yeah.
looking at a map on the right. Then you have the April's Kloof, which is where any number of guys get the grapes. Eben is there, Sadi, Lammershoek, Interlego. Our next Kloof, the Molyneux get grapes from there. That's the bulk of the vineyards. It's the longest valley.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a long valley. It's a beautiful place. And then you have the Jobaz Kloof, which is on the ocean side of the. I think it's what definitely is cooler. There's some higher slopes there, 350 meters. In the April's Kloof, you still get some at 700 meters even, but in the Jobaz Kloof, which is the most easterly, the ocean side, westerly, excuse me, the westerly side. Yeah, you do at night time you have a cooler breeze, and so there's a lot of variance there. Yeah.
Cool.
It's all about nighttime temperature.
I apologise for digressing.
No,
So whereabouts in the Paardeberg is this vineyard?
this is on the easterly side,
Okay.
so slightly warmer.
So Sieberts Kloof side.
Yeah, exactly. So it's slightly warmer at night, so you get a bit. I find a bit of this different kind of tones, like more weighty. It's more weight.
Like just riper
more riper
characters.
fruit. Yeah, exactly.
essentially, Yeah.
Yeah.
And you, I mean, apart from no sulphur and old oak, are you doing anything else differently to this wine? Is that what's
no,
the?
that's it. Whole bunch pressed,
Yeah.
straight in. That's it. I mean, there's nothing. I do keep it very simple. I mean, what we do is we do small changes. We don't do big drastic changes vintage to vintage because I think we also need to learn, and we try and improve that way rather than just kind of just flying left, right, center. And I think now you're starting to see the quality come through. But my 2015 vintage of this it's perfect still. I mean, in terms of health, it's still going to go a number of years.
Yeah.
Which speaks a lot for the site.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the site itself, is it trellis? Is it bushfire?
No, all bush vine. So planted in 1981. You'll find a lot of the vineyards in the Swartland were planted in the 1972. Most guys, but that was also when Sarvis, our governing body,
Yes.
started. What's the word? They actually registered the vineyards.
Yes.
So that was the first year.
Yeah.
So they're actually probably older than that, a lot older. But we have to say they're from 72.
Yeah.
But this is 81.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lekker.
Really? Yeah. So Lekker means lekker, which means cool. Sorry.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a. Well, maybe explain that.
It is.
Go
Yeah.
on,
I
go,
mean,
go.
lekker is Afrikaans. It means cool, nice. Another
Is it in
Afrikaans
Dutch as well or not? Do you know?
I don't know, but in Norwegian it is.
Yeah,
Lekker
okay.
means the same thing.
Okay.
So that's actually how the wine came about.
Right.
Our Norwegian importer, so Gay and Uwe, Unico, they came out to South Africa and bought a whole bunch of sommeliers. As they like to say, they do some dirty marketing. Maybe edit that. But no, they came out, they bought all these sommeliers out, which is awesome. And they came to the cellar, they tasted a few barrels, and this wine I just started working with. This is back in 2017, I think 2017-18, and they really loved this one wine, and they wanted the wine to commemorate their trip. So we had a barrel of it, and they said, can we bottle it, but we want to call it Lekker, because it was quite unique to them that Lekker and Lekker meant Lekker.
Yes.
So we bottled, of course I did it for them, but
Like the Venn diagram is like, that's it. That's
it.
Yeah. That's the intersection.
Yeah, so we bottled it only in magnums for them because I love magnums. That was my one requirement.
Yeah.
And we went from there. But this vineyard, in all seriousness, actually ended up me taking that resulted in me taking the wine a lot more seriously, because it was from a vineyard on the west coast, so close to Redlinghuis, deep sand, beach sand. It looks like the beach.
So again, where from?
So from us, straight west. So you go
Okay.
past Mouton's Hook.
So through Piketberg.
No, through towards Elands Bay, but Ketberg is actually south from us. So we go
Oh,
directly
yeah,
west,
okay, yeah.
through that channel. There's a very famous surf break called Elands Bay. I like to call it the Jeffreys Bay of the West Coast, but I don't surf it.
You're the only person who says that? Yeah, okay.
And my surfing
Don't think it's going to catch on.
but it is. It's flipping amazing.
Right.
I just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Jeffreys Bay is an amazing surf spot, obviously. But
Yes.
But yeah, so you go to Mouton's Hook, and then another 20 kilometers, you get this. And if you drive another 15 kilometers, you're in the ocean. So it's quite close to the ocean.
Not to be advised.
Not to be advised, yeah. So this is a farmer. His name is Sarel van Sale. My mother-in-law was Anna van Sale. She's not Kretzel, but she grew up on this farm. She was born there, so it's her cousin.
Was that a happy accident, or?
That she was born.
Well, no, you got the grapes from there, and did you find out this
Yes,
later?
it was,
or?
exactly. Yeah.
That she was born. Yeah.
So she grew up on this farm, and Sarel's, he farms potatoes and rooibos and sheep, but mainly potatoes and onions. He said he was going to pull the vineyard out. So and he first approached Anna because he knew we make wine, and he said, "Look, doesn't your son-in-law, so your skoon,
Skoon,
it's funny in Afrikaans, your skoon is your clean son, skoonseun. So it's, doesn't your clean want to make wine for us?" So obviously I jump at any opportunity, and it's an exceptional vineyard on a
you get to go on
exceptional
Photoshop
site.
as well.
Yeah, exactly. Another chance for another label.
Yeah.
So yeah, we took it over,
Okay.
and it was he used to farm it for massive production. So it's only 22 years old. But
So he wouldn't have been farming organically at that point?
no, he was not. He wasn't even farming it.
Oh, right. It's just wild.
It was just there.
Okay. So do you farm that on his behalf, or does he
Yes,
farm
so we actually farm that.
Okay, right.
So
How does that work? I mean, it's so far away. How do you...
So he sprays it.
Okay.
So we give him the stuff, the organic stuff that we need to spray it. But when it comes to pruning, obviously we do.
Because he's a farmer. He has all the equipment. Yeah.
So that's why we employed Adrian.
Yes.
That's one of his roles. So like he goes in, we do the pruning and all of that. So it's quite a... That's a lot of work, but it resulted in this wine that's extremely salty. So I always put on the back label something about salt. Apparochia is still salty, but that's the current vintage. But every vintage there's something. It gives you the salinity, which is beautiful, and absolutely. So he's quite a forward-thinking guy. He bought another for him a small farm. He said, get a klein plaasie gekoop, and it was on the klein tafel. Yeah, I just bought a small farm. Knowing, I asked him how big is it? No, 800 hectares. I was like, Jesus. It's like but it's right next to the ocean.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable size. So there, and he said, I think this could interest you. That's the plan, is to start planting there.
Cool.
Maybe more Shannon, maybe not. I don't know. It will definitely be white.
This is one of the more interesting labels in the, which is saying something.
Yeah, I know.
We need to arrange.
So David,
talk us through that.
David Retief, a good friend of mine, he was farming on the Paarl Mountain, and this is one of his staff members who absolutely loves our wines and labels and things, and he really wanted to be on one of our labels. So we, obviously, he sent me a video saying, "I want to be on a label, and I'll give you permission to use this photo," and it happened to be that.
Yes.
And on his cap it says "Money grow like grass," which is just amazing, because it doesn't. And so I used it, and it works quite well.
And he's not talking about the grass you mow, is he?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, so it's a bit of fun. I mean, we like to have fun as well. But I mean, the wine, if you're looking for seriousness, it's there.
Yes.
But
the series is inside the bottle, not necessarily on the outside.
But if you're looking for fun, it's on the outside. So we always put comments on the back labels, and we do. I don't even know what I wrote there. Enjoy your day.
Enjoy your day. Yeah.
There you go. That's deep. So we do a lot of different things.
And this one is "One Day When I Am Big."
Yes.
Yeah.
One day when I'm big.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's but that is, in all seriousness, I think something for the future. That side of the Swartland, so it's northwest of the Swartland, so it's again about 140 kilometers northwest of the Paardeberg.
Yeah, right.
So it's a big region,
Yeah.
and so there's a lot of nuance there we can work with.
Lots of diesel being involved.
Yeah.
Cool. Cortez, obviously a very important wine for El Bandito and TESTALONGA, obviously.
if not this and the skin are our two most important, purely because it's what we established everything. The clothes that I'm wearing today came from these two wines. You know, basically it's like what set us on our way. I mean, you know, the skin contact we'll get to, but that was the wine that broke the mold, and then the Cortez came in and kind of just smoothed things out a bit. Shows that we actually not
on the
just
coattails.
We're not just these
The
crazy.
second born, like too easy. Yeah.
We're not just these crazy guys doing skin contact. We're also making serious.
We can make some good wine also.
Yeah, I think exactly. Excuse my brother. And that's the two kind of went hand in hand for a long time, and I loved that. It was nice. It was a lot easier going out selling just 2 bottles of wine than like a whole bunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this label changes.
I'm not sure the table's big enough, to be honest, but we'll get there.
You got a big table here. The Cortez. The name comes from the song "Cortez the Killer" from Dave Matthews Band live in Central Park, originally by Neil Young. When I was working for Dirk Newport, his winemaker at the time, Louis Sebra. Take my hat off to the guy. He had so much time in the world for me and everybody else. But we would drive around from vineyard to vineyard in Portugal, just going, like looking, and he had all the time in the world to share knowledge, wine, and time, which I really love. But always he was listening to Cortez the Killer.
All right.
So it was like there in my head. So when I knew that, I just called it Cortez.
Okay.
Yeah, so this label changes every year. It just does.
And is that the only label that does that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we can't do more than that.
Why is that? Just to
so at the beginning, you
haven't got enough wines for.
Yeah, just to confuse things a bit more. But the first label of this was there was a dispute over some negatives of a photograph by Ansel Adams.
Okay.
And I actually, being 24, 25, I used that
on the label.
I was like, no, that's not quite right. Because
just Googled it.
Yeah, no, it just came up and it was the most amazing, powerful photo. But I realized, no, that's, it's not right.
Yeah.
So they still don't know who owns the photo, but it doesn't matter.
Yes.
But that's led to me changing.
Yes.
The label every year. So
okay.
This year.
So you had to change it after the first year, and you thought that's a good idea.
Yeah, great idea. Mouton Rothschild, they do it, so why can't I do it?
No, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just asking. Yeah.
That's what works for them. It must work for me. No, but this is my dog Bruce. The current vintage, obviously.
R.I.P.
Again, R.I.P. He died this year. He's a massive unit. Bruce, yeah.
Wasn't a big fan of birds, was he, or Bruce?
No, or drones.
Or drones. Well, what do you know the difference?
No, he didn't.
Yeah,
anything that moved, he wasn't much of a fan of. He ate it.
Yeah. Trying to eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good strong name as well, Bruce.
Bruce, yeah.
But anyway, the wine is probably, on a serious note, it's from the Paardeberg. It's from Tom Liver's old farm, Bosgasfontein. Again, another vineyard that we're managing.
So this is up Kloof or your Kloof?
Your Kloof.
Yeah.
On the eastern side, western side, closer to the ocean.
The other side.
Depends which way I'm looking down or.
Yeah. You look from the north now, huh?
Yeah. So it's a bit cooler. Very, very high silica content in the soils. I find the soils here decompose ground still, but if you pick up that soil, it doesn't just like towards the eastern side. You pick it up, it's like sand. It kind of falls apart. Here, it's very blocky. A lot of organic matter, so it actually holds.
Interesting.
Like which is
it's almost malleable.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's the reason why this wine has a lower pH, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how I separate between, for instance, this and the Keep On Punching, for instance. This is just purer. It's got length. It can age for a long time, and it's probably my best in it.
Yeah, for me, I think this is every year your best wine. Well, if it's not the best one, it's certainly
it's up
if it's first or second for me.
It's up as vineyard.
It's a phenomenal one. Yeah. And it's interesting that say this is the most open wine and expressive, and then I think this is the exact opposite. This is the tightest, leanest, raciest, most sort of laser-like.
Yeah. No, thanks. I mean it is.
And what here's what 7-8 k's difference?
Not even. Yeah.
Okay.
So within that, so it's close, but that's what makes Burgundy amazing.
Yeah.
Is that you can move 100 meters and one vineyard is not as good as. And I think we're starting to understand that in South Africa, that vineyards matter.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that there's a lot of Chenin, so you're comparing apples with apples.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, if this vineyard was planted to a different variety, it's hard to compare.
No. Good point. No.
Yeah. I've got some moves.
Yeah.
I keep them all hidden.
Yeah, so that's that. I mean, it's just a pleasure to work with that vineyard because in a tough year, which normally means less rain,
Very cool.
you get good acids.
And you're making this wine like the same as you're making these?
Yeah, a
or
whole
how
bunch.
is it?
Yeah, essentially, it's just the Cortez for the last 8 years. I've been a whole bunch pressing, always have, but it's the last 8 years I've been aging it in 500 litre barrels, 60%, and then 40% in stainless steel.
Okay.
Then I add the two together and I put it back.
Okay. For something so racy, I would have thought a higher, or a larger format would have been more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot. So the idea. I mean, I brought 2 German Frudra 4 years ago. New, so I'm still trying to get the wood out of it.
Oh, I see.
And the idea was to.
And that's to keep on punching.
No, actually, that's wine that's not on the table here today.
Okay.
So, but we.
Wine 28.
Yeah. But we put. The idea was to put after 6 months put the Chenin in there.
Okay.
And age it a bit longer, but we'll get there. I'm just
Yeah.
I just don't want to. I've been accused of many things, but never a woody wine. I don't want to start now. But the unfortunate thing is, if you need to buy barrels, you have to buy them new, the big format.
Yes.
Just
Otherwise, you're inheriting a whole bunch of issues.
of
perhaps.
disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Cool. And Cortez, I mean, what's a typical Cortez wine look like in terms of how would you, if you had to, someone rings you up on the phone,
Yeah.
not that anyone does that anymore, but
Yeah, no, some people still phone me. Not many, but probably it's racy, like you said, and mineral and tight, tight and reserved when you first open it, and on the second day it starts to really open up, and
Yes.
the third, fourth day, even 2 weeks in bottle in the fridge, it really blossoms.
Yeah.
But it's very, very tight, and that's not sulfur. That's not anything. It's just the vineyard that makes it that way. It's reserved.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we've spoken about 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 wines, and now we're finally getting to a white wine that isn't made from Chenin.
Yes.
We got there eventually. Mangaliza, Harsh-Levelu.
So this is, as you said, Harsh-Levelu. So Harsh-Levelu or Harsh-Levelu is the Hungarian grape variety. So this fascinating wine and grape. This is. I worked like I said, I worked for Dorlimor on the border of Hungary, in Austria. So I used to go to Hungary quite a lot. I loved it, and I fell in love with the grape Harsh-Levelu there. So traditionally, it's used in the Tokai region, together with Jurfak and then ferment to make the sweet wines of Tokai. But then there's this extinct volcano on a mountain called Szomlói, very close to where I was working actually. So it was a quick drive, and we went there, and I discovered the wines of Imre Jerškovac, which were fascinating. They blew my mind, and it was dry Harsh-Levelus that really kind of encapsulated exactly what I like in a white wine.
Okay.
Which is racy, steely, big acidity, but still with texture. And so a portion of the Muscat vineyard that we work with is also Harsh-Levelu. So there's about 0.3 of a hectare of this. So we only make in a very big vintage, we make 700 litres or 900 litres. But in a average vintage like this, we make 500 litres. So it's tiny.
Like a slightly bigger bath than people have in their domestic homes.
I don't know what kind of bath you got, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it is.
It's not a lot of wine.
It's small. It's small, but that's also what makes it special.
Yeah.
But it's something that we're going to look at planting.
I was going to ask you, you seem pretty enthusiastic about it.
No, I love it. It gives me everything I'm looking for in a white wine, and I think it needs time to age, even the style we make it. So I think it will give. Yeah, we'll start planting this in about a couple of years, hopefully, on our farm. It's definitely something we need to plant.
It seems to me, it's one of those wines that, as you say, it's made in such minuscule quantities. I've only tasted it a few times. We taste it every year, but you've been kind enough to open up a few older bottles occasionally. It seems to age very, very slowly.
It does, yeah. This is the Cortez, again, the same soils. Slightly, this is at the bottom of the slope than the Cortez,
Okay.
which means it gets a bit more water, actually. But it's slightly more decomposed soils, so a bit more sand. But it still gives you that big acidity, even in a tough year. And that's gold in the Swartland. You know, everybody talks about acidity. That's all we try and capture. You know, and the way we're not adding anything. It's easy to just pick it at whatever and then throw acid. But that for me is I'd rather.
I mean, granite, well drained soils, a lot of heat.
Yeah.
Doesn't scream acidic wines.
Yeah.
So is it? You know, you have to capture that.
You have to capture that. So that's where during harvest, you know, I don't go out on the piss every night and have parties, and you know, I take it very seriously, because if you're hungover or you've had a late night or this and that, and you miss that picking day, there's literally a small window that you can miss.
Yeah, and the next day it'll be 39 degrees.
You can miss it, and things change. So it's not like, I remember, you know, working in Austria, and I went there and I was with Dirk and Dorley, and we're in the vineyard, and I was like, cool, we need to pick this maybe tomorrow. In the next 2 days, I go, no, another 2-3 weeks. And I was like, no, you're crazy, there's no way. But the acid moves so slowly. This was in 08, 09, which was a wet vintage, but the acid changed so slowly compared to South Africa. I remember Eric Naru, the owner of Lekker, he came in 2013, came to the farm, and he was tasting. He's like, oh, so you're going to be picking this in 3 weeks? I was like, no, in 2 days. And he couldn't, so it was the opposite.
Yes, he's like, well, what, yeah.
So I learned a lot working.
Didn't realise it was going to drop out so quickly.
Yeah, and it does.
Yeah.
It really does.
And that's obviously not a harsh level problem. That's a Swartland problem.
It's a South African problem, I would say. Besides maybe Elgin.
Yeah.
But
you're in a warmer
area. Let's talk about Swartland.
Than average,
yeah. So in the Swartland, it's definitely a Swartland thing.
Problem's not the right word, but yeah.
It's a
factor.
Something we have to navigate.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of farming. I think that is a long way to getting why I think organic farming is the way to go, because your vines are resistant to massive changes. Older vines do help generally because they've been there, done that, and I think that gives us the tools to be able to make the wines we really want.
How did the name Mangaliza come about?
Yeah, so Mangaliza is the pig from Hungary. Looks like a sheep. You Google it, it looks like a sheep, but with a pig's nose.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah. I was just trying to think which one is a pig or sheep. But it's got like the racing stripes on it, and it makes amazing charcuterie as well. It's got like fat like that.
Yeah, right. So a pig that looks like a sheep?
Yeah.
And that's why there's a mouse on the label?
100%. So it's a common, but the only relation, the mouse on the label's got the same stripes as the Mangaliza. Okay, right. So that's it. It's a natural fit.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean the
racing stripes.
That was a mouse stuck under my door. I always joke, you know, as natural wine became more prevalent, it was a lot of jokes came at least the mouse is on the outside of the bottle.
Oh.
No, people said that to me. So I just, thank God, it's still on the outside. Yeah.
But why the mouse? Just a nice photo?
It was stuck under my door and I saved it. And it was actually a pair. So in 2015, we made the Mangaliza Part 2. There's no Part 1. It's just Part 2 and the Mangaliza. It was based on the Rambo movies, Part 2.
Oh, the First Blood, Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just an amazing movie. But
she watched it the other day.
It's awesome.
Phenomenal acting.
And so we did one, which was this, and one with Skin Contact, which was the Part 2. And they both, back in 2011, you have the on your iPhone, you had the Hipstermatic app, which gave you that border. So they both had beautiful photos on it, and that was actually where it came from. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
If you're looking for depth, you've come to the wrong place.
If you look for nuance, no.
Yeah, very good.
All right, more beers. This one here, Hallelujah Chicken Run. I mean, I've worked with the wines for 10 years. I've only seen this 3 times. Do you fuck it up every other year, or what's the problem?
So, my favourite label by a country mile. I just love what this boy's doing on the label and putting the face. So, you know, Kevin Short, his brother, he now works for my import in Pascal in the US.
Oh, yeah?
He worked in Kenya, but he took that photo of his pupil. And it's brilliant. I love the power in that photo. And I called it Hallelujah Chicken Run.
It's very good.
Yeah. I called it Hallelujah Chicken Run.
Where should I put this here?
Because I love African music and Zimbabwean music in particular. Okay. But Thomas Mafumo is very famous. He and Oliver Mtukudzi are probably the 2 most famous the Zimbabwean musicians, but they were, part of the whole struggle back in the day there. But real back in the day when he started making music, his first band was called Hallelujah Chicken Run because they all worked in the chicken runs. And they used to work by day and then at night time go. And I just love that. And he's actually got an album where he sings a song and then he explains it. And look, I love a lot of music. I love the Pixies, but also love African music as well. So it's a nice touch to that. But the reason why we've only made it 3 times is because it's produced from 300 vines only. So basically 300 vines, the smallest barrel you got is 2 to 5 liters. So you got to get a full 300 vines worth of grapes. So we've never had the volume.
It's hard to squeeze 20 kilos into it.
There's only so much you can press. I mean, I could be blending stuff in there, but I try and, when we have enough volume, then we make it. So 2015, 17, and 23.
Have we told people what it is yet?
It's Viognier.
Okay.
True, it's Viognier. So Viognier traditionally is a very aromatic, waxy, fat, quite alcoholic, juicy grape. A wine, voluptuous. That's it. So when I worked for Stefan Ogier, he had some vineyards in Condrieu. I only worked in the vineyards actually for 6 months, and it was awesome. I had time to just drink and visit all the towns in Ampuy and Condrieu. And I fell in love with there was Georges Vernet. I mean, obviously they still got the Chateau Griot. They made.
It's a very different style to that.
Completely different. That's why I wanted to do it. That is me as well. I want to show a different side of Viognier, which has got acidity. Still exotic fruit, but a different style.
So what kind of style are we looking at there? What are you doing to it
Same
that's
as
different?
these, just picking on acidity when the acid's ripe by harvest, whether that's, and it's something we haven't, on a more serious note, the wine, everyone thinks that it should be 12.5, 13, 14, alcohol when it's ripe, but we're not all the same. Grapes are definitely not all the same, and I think some grapes are just better at low alcohols, and perhaps this is that. I found that Viognier, at Lamazuk, we used to work with quite a lot of volume of this actually. We had about 10 to 11 tons of it, but when you hold the bunch, it looked green and not ripe. But when you tasted it, had all the petrol flavor. That it was ripe. So we picked it, and that translated into this wine. Over time, I realized that.
We haven't spoken about alcohol levels at all, but what is this?
11.
Usually? Is that the usual sort of 11 to 12?
It surprised me even as well, but it was. So I don't analyze anything before harvest. I really don't. And people say maybe you should, but I don't.
But just tell Colin to shut up.
But it's about balance, and that's the way I'm comfortable. I learned that way from. There's nothing against any other way of doing it, but it's just the way I'm comfortable.
Yes.
Because I don't have the numbers in my head. I have the flavors and a very trendy word these days, the feelings in my head. So it's what I feel comfortable with doing.
You got feelings in your head.
So. Yeah, that's what we do. So we pick it on taste, and then I analyze and I check. But normally, so it's about that acid balance that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
So when it's at, 13%, 14%, the acid is falling out.
So I mean, is it the extra bit of sun? Is it the heat or the sunlight that sort of means that you can pick this earlier with ripeness? Or
yeah, definitely. And the way it's farmed again.
Yeah.
It's old. It's not old. It's like 22-year-old vineyard of Viognier, but it's dryland bush vines. So with the wind, there's quite a lot of wind in the Paardeberg area, and that keeps the vine kind of always in constant motion. So it has to stabilize. So something has to give. So you generally get smaller, tighter bunches.
Yes.
Shorter
protecting
shoots.
itself against
Exactly. So it's not overcropping by nature. And that's, in a nutshell, what keeps it together. Yeah, there's no water, so, yeah.
Very cool. And it's a wine that, as you say,
But that'll age as well. I've got the first vintage of that.
But you've made sort of like 500 bottles total of this.
But I always bottle some Magnums for myself. So.
Of course you do. Yeah.
And that we keep for a rainy day. Yeah.
Don't tell people that because they'll come hunting for it.
Yeah.
Cool. Staying with El Bandito, we're skin macerated El Banditos, and to the original wine. Very special.
Yeah, so the skin, this is the first label we ever made in 2008. It was a very special label for me in terms of just, it's quite different to the other labels. It's quite raw and basic, but powerful at the same time. And I just love there's a lot of little details on that label I think that people sometimes miss. But it's I'm by no means
Well, go through them.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. I'm by no means a graphic designer of any sort. But I started off with a blank, literally at my mother's kitchen table back in 2008 with a white piece of paper, and I drew the borders. I had the poster. The border of this wine is from the poster Le Chat Noir, which is from a play in Paris, The Black Cat.
Black Cat, yes.
Designed originally by Henri de la Toulouse-Lautrec, famous artist or alcoholic, whichever way you look at it. But so I took that border and on there I put my name. At that stage it was just me, and then I put the price for the ticket was in francs. So is the vintage. I put in small, Nature Does Not Leap. It's from a book which I really like. It's actually quite deep. That nature doesn't leap; it moves slowly. And I think that there's a lot of that in the wine as well. I have the Irish harp in the middle, a version of it, which is I have an Irish passport, so made for it. My grandfather. It's not made for him, but he made it. He told my mother to get us Irish passports because he's from Ireland, and 1986 was the cutoff. So I'm showing a bit of my age here, but I was born before that, but that was it helped us really travel the world. And without,
so that enabled you to experience all.
It was everything. Yeah. That's why I put it in the middle because I wanted to show what are we really about. So TESTALONGA, homage to Antonio Perino and the Bandit from Sicily. So I called it Bandito because it's the first skin contact in South Africa. And then for me, the crowning piece was the made from grapes. Originally, I had the made from Chenin, but I thought, no, that's just a bit boring. I said, what do we actually? I need 3 words that describe what we do. Made from grapes, and that's really come down to it. And it's funny as well. Some people really laugh because like they say no shit, but I was like, think about it. And that's what we do.
They go,
yeah,
no shit.
Yeah. And then they still don't think about it. But think about it more. But they don't.
Please.
Yeah, no, but it's a lot of fun as well. So it's like a Western poster, and we anyway. So the wine is skin contact Chenin. So
well, the Western poster, is that why the Bandito is in that sort of wanted,
that font,
dead or alive vibes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
the Bon Jovi font.
Yeah. I don't know. It's called Tonki font. I paid for it as well. So. Yeah. Then from there everything else developed. But yeah. So that wine is very special.
So this wine sits next to Cortez.
The Cortez.
And,
yeah. And then
the vineyard. Sorry, I apologize.
The vineyard. Yeah. The vineyard is next to, they're adjacent to each other. Or on the same property, very close. But so you have a similar linearity in the wine. But I find the skin contact actually uplifts the wine a bit more.
How did you decide that you're going to, with this part of the farm, work with skin contact, and with the Cortez part of the farm?
So this is right at the bottom of the farm,
okay,
and where there's a big catchment of water, so it's very wet down there, and so the berries are slightly bigger, more juicy. It gets ripe a bit later actually.
Okay. So it needs a bit more concentration.
It needs more concentration. I thought it would work. The funny way of thinking the normal way of thinking would be to use the more smaller berries, more stressed vineyards for the skin contact, but actually I found the opposite holds true. And I use the more intense berries for the Cortez and the bigger berries for the skin. But it's still got good acidity and low pH and all of that. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, so the first vintage we did 4 weeks on the skins. I mean, I'm putting emphasis on this wine because it's where it all started. It's very sentimental, obviously, to us, as they all are, but this one more so.
Well, this has the longest history. Clearly.
This is where it started.
Yeah.
So in 2008, I just made that. My very first customer was Andrew Henwood. He worked for De Beers Diamonds back in the day, and he's just a natural wine, just naturally a wine lover. He loved all wines and different, and he still sends me. He's now immigrated to the UK. But like when I was married, this is what I love about wine. Is like he comes to visit me on the farm, and we've become good mates just purely because I made different wine. Otherwise, we wouldn't have met. He gave me cufflinks of Jasper actually for my wedding, which was nice. And he played a big role actually.
Just for weekends.
Yeah, I know. So he gave me the confidence to carry on because he was literally my first invoice.
Okay.
And it was just a spreadsheet and
invoice number one.
And it went straight into my private bank account.
Yeah.
So that was when I wasn't paying tax for the
Don't
first 5 years.
Yeah.
No, when we first registered the company, it was only 2014. My accountant, because everything was coming to my personal account.
Yeah.
It's maybe stuff I shouldn't be saying on camera, but
Yeah, we can edit that out.
but it was fun.
Yeah.
But he said,
I've just confessed to 4 murders in the bathroom. So.
he said, do you like suits? He said you can choose between a black suit or an orange suit. So he said, which one? You want? So it's yeah, so it fitted with the whole Bandito thing. But
You like Polesmore or fan court?
but the skin contact was integral to everything we do. So the first year we did was 4 weeks on the skins, then we did 9.
So did you reference other wines that you tasted in,
No,
or you just make it up as you went
I just literally felt until there was enough colour in the wine, then I pressed it. So I was extracting more back in the day.
Yeah.
And then 2009 I went way
So
less.
colour was important to you at that point?
It
in
was.
Your,
it needed to be orange. It
Yeah,
needed to
okay.
be markedly different.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. I mean, Dirk Newport.
No, I've had the wine. It's delicious.
Yeah, it's he helped me press the first vintage, which was like an honor. But back then you don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
They're just people in your life.
Yeah, just got a cool haircut.
Yeah. And when I look back on photos, I was like, geez, he was there stomping the grapes.
Yeah.
And it was cool. These guys had a big influence on me. They allowed me to just do what you want to do. And then I think from 2013 onwards, we realized 2010, 11, 12, we really pushed the boat out. We did 2 years skin contact, double lees, and it was weird. The wines were weird, everything was weird, but they were fascinating.
Why were you doing that?
I wanted to see where you can and conquer.
Okay.
I literally really went.
Essentially R&D, was it research and development?
It always has been.
Okay.
Back in there it was. And then 2013 we realized, okay, what are we actually doing here?
Yeah.
Because Carla got involved obviously as well, and we were tasting and we realized we need to
She's like, what are you talking about?
focus on something.
Yes.
And we did. And now the style
And then obviously 14.
was when we started working together.
Yeah, but then you've we started working together with Lamassouk in 2013.
That's right, yeah.
And then we started working in 14 with TESTALONGA. But obviously at 14, now TESTALONGA is your only gig, and you sort of, it's no longer a side gig.
Yeah.
Did that have some thinking about moving away from such like wild?
Yes, definitely.
I don't want to say experiments, but tests or.
Well, the thing is, you want to go to sleep at night and realize what are we actually doing here? Like, are we just playing around? Are we trying to make extreme wines, or are we trying to focus and actually make quality?
Yes.
And that was where it came down. It always comes down to quality. I've always said that.
But you had to find what the limits were before you found what
of
was
course.
the best?
It's a reference point. That's exactly it. So I still, when I look back on those wines, they're amazing. But I can take pieces of them and put them together. I think I could make something really cool.
So you love a sporting metaphor, I know this. So you're the guy who rolls up and just like bounces a bloke first up just to work out.
Oh, definitely. You have to.
Yeah.
No, even a Beamer. No. So I love sport. I played a lot of sport. I played in the UK that's why I finished late, but 2 years in the UK, the Premier League there.
Yes.
But my coach there, Julian.
Playing
hockey, excuse me. So people think it's not physical, but it is. But Julian Hall's coach. He played for England at that time there, but he was my coach. He called the ball a CUNT. You would like that, but he always said, whoever you're marking.
I like honest people. That's all.
Whoever you're marking, like your opponent, you look him in the eye and you hit him fucking hard the first time, and and it really made sense because then you realize that because then they're on the back foot the whole time, and he said it doesn't matter what you do after that, but that first hit is, and I don't know where we're going with this. But your sporting analogy, So
No, I was just trying to get into your psyche and then trying to work out.
That is my psyche.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Let's not give it 2 weeks. Let's give it 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the Craig Hawkins way.
So there definitely is. I mean, we pressed this wine in 2010. We pressed the 2010 vintage in 2012 on Christmas Day. Not Christmas Day, Christmas Eve.
Yeah, right.
Jürgen
Big family man, are you?
Jürgen was with me. I don't know why. So it was something like he's like Happy Christmas. But, it was fun times.
And so, what did you learn from these things?
I learned where you can go.
Okay.
Because there was definitely a point in that 2-year maceration where it was at its peak.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think we passed that.
Right.
And then we missed that point.
Yes. In hindsight, where would have you pressed that?
If you not on Christmas Eve.
No.
So probably
December 21st, like 4 days earlier. Yeah.
Maybe a couple of months earlier.
Okay.
But I think
you let me survive a couple of months, I think.
Yeah, I can't quite say.
I mean,
I can't quite
best
say
guess.
because at that moment, but probably at least 2 to 3 months earlier.
Okay.
Because there's a point where oxidation takes over in the barrel. Because we took the heads off the barrels, we filled it with grapes, filled it with wine, closed it up, bunged it up, and it fermented. That was amazing. I mean, the first time we opened it, it literally it came out and hit the roof.
This is pre-ferment. You're putting this in. This is not post-ferment.
No, this is
fermentation, and you're sealing it up.
Pre-ferment. Okay. We did it exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had a lot of barrels like that. So some were better than others. But no, the wine's within legal limits, but it's beautiful. The tannin for me is the most interesting part.
Anytime someone says legal,
yeah, I mean the VA is below 1.
No, yeah. I understand what you're saying, but yeah.
It's 0.99. So it's high. But
yes.
What on a serious note, I mean, what I learned there was how the tannin, definitely everything falls apart and it comes back together, and then you get this weird line, which is beautiful. And I actually want to revisit it.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about that as well. But the last few vintages have been less
less,
and less sort of variant,
yes,
or disparate. What are you doing? What was the last chunk of vintages been look like in terms of in the wine?
I'd say the last 8 years we've been doing like around between 14 and 21 days. And you have the balance between acidity, tannin, and texture. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for texture.
Yeah. So the question is, the reason why I'm asking this question is that you went from 2 years back to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Not,
Actually, I went to 6 months in 2011.
Yeah.
So.
But then you.
And then I went. Yeah, I know. It's not.
No,
I did do that because I wanted to see. So I went.
Yes.
I went 4 weeks, 3 weeks, carbonic maceration 09, 2 years in 2010.
Yes.
6 months in 2011.
Right.
And then 2012, I went I picked super early, like it's still aging my cellar on acid. And then 2013, we kind of went around 3 weeks. I just found, obviously I'm tasting the whole time.
Yes.
And I remember things. I do make notes as well and remembering what was best. And then we settled on something fascinating.
My question is probably linked to the business side. I mean, it's obviously, it's a commercial venture. You need to make money.
Yes.
It seems now that, and you can tell me if I'm way off, which I often am. But if I don't ask, I don't get the answer. That at the time you were making all the experiments, you weren't relying on TESTALONGA for an income.
True.
And now that you're maybe willing to do those experiments again, you're not relying on this wine for an income because you have 600 other wines. And that allows you that freedom of experimentation.
It's all true. Yeah. I mean, that's the
I don't know, it's just a hypothesis.
No, it's true. That's the beauty of being young.
Yeah.
Is that you have supports around you.
100%.
And that's why I think a lot of the most creative people and creativity happens in your 20s. A lot of famous artists with their best works were when they were 27. Yeah. Around that age. I mean, a lot of that stuff, some not, I'm broadly speaking.
Yes.
But that comes back to why I respect Paul so much in the beginning. He allowed me to do what we needed to do.
Yes.
For sure, that's 100% correct.
And so, when you're saying you're going to look at it in the future, talk to me more about that. What does that look like? Is that like committing, or are you going to commit a portion of the grapes? Or
so the thing is, I don't want to confuse anything anymore. I don't want to suddenly start bringing out.
Yeah, it's all pretty clear.
What I might do is this label is quite identifiable now.
Yes.
Is like if I do a portion of this on the skins for say another 6 months, I might just the same label but make it purple or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
like a negative or something.
Exactly.
Or a part two like you did with.
So we know that it's the same but not the same.
It's not,
that's
but
my
different.
thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm happy with what we're doing. I'm content with the quality we're getting and the complexity. That's what it's about.
And if you want to explain this wine to people, if someone says, well, what does a Bandito skin?
Texture. It always brings you texture. Texture combined with acidity that give you a juiciness and a drinkability without the skins being dominant, too dominant, overpowering.
It's from the same farm as the Mangaliza and the Cortez.
Yes.
Does it have that similar saltiness?
Definitely, 100%. Yeah. So when people drink the Stay Brave and the skin, they're made the same way, almost.
Yeah.
The difference is the vineyard site gives me the depth that I'm looking for in the skin and less so in the Stay Brave. Even though that sells way more,
But you make more of it as well.
Yeah, we also make more crisp, but I mean, we have more, you still have to sell it.
Yes.
You have more requests for it.
Yeah, okay.
Is that it's because it's by the glass, you know, people drink it and don't think, but this is for people that think a bit more. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I think we've...
Yeah, we've definitely done that.
Yeah, okay.
So then we got the Sweet Cheeks, which is actually the fourth wine we made. So it's Muscat Alexandria. So also...
So 08 for the skin, 09 for Cortez.
Yeah, and then I think it was 2012.
Okay.
2012, 2013. I should remember that, but it all becomes a blur now. But it was,
there's a few dates to remember, mate. So.
No, but it was important for us because it was, you know, it's a big step to go from one wine to two wines, and then to three wines, because you still have to make it work.
So this is a skin macerated white wine.
Yeah.
Made from
Muscat Alexandria. So in French they call it the gros grain, the big berry. So in Afrikaans a hannepoot, which means chicken feet, because the bunch spreads out, so it looks like chicken's feet, which I love. So on my first vintage of this wine, I put on the back label 100% chicken feet.
Yes.
People didn't quite get that.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. But it's also, you know, Sweet Cheeks, because the children next door to this farm love eating the grapes. So Sweet Cheeks, they run around away eating a lot of grapes. But
I mean, Anaput or Muscat is it can be a table grape as well.
It is a table grape.
Yeah.
In South Africa, but you know, from Tom Libber, I discovered that there's a lot of guys down there doing not only skin macerated whites, but just dry whites from the more the Frontignan, the smaller berried one.
Yes.
But I really enjoyed this one. So I came back to South Africa. Well, not came. I always say came back because I was always away somewhere. But I started working with this vineyard, which is quite old as well, and it works really well. It's a perfect example of where skin maceration benefits a wine.
Talk to me about that. Why skin maceration for Muscat Alexandria?
So without the skin maceration, the wine's quite boring. It's just, it can get that soapy flavour.
Yes.
But with the skin contact, it gives you that fruity, opulent smells. Yeah, a lot more depth, but also that opulence, which I love. It gives you that muscat aromas. And I love it. It's only 11% alcohol.
If you just press this out and ferment it, is it quite inert?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the skins give you the texture. So if you just drink this wine, you would never say it's made fermented on the skins for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. Yeah. And it's also a good excuse for me to use a Jack. On the back label, I always quote Jack Handy, my favorite comedian, the American. He's very funny and very dry. Carla finds him not that funny, but that's why we married, because we find everything funny. Yes. But I have some friends who either you laugh. Jürgen definitely doesn't laugh at that. But my friends find it very funny. But it's like you can read it out loud if you want. It's a.
I'm getting old. I have to take my glasses off to read things. If you work on a lobster boat, sneaking up behind someone and pinching him is probably a joke that gets old real fast.
So he's got a book. I know. He's got a book called "What I'd Say to the Aliens."
Your reaction's funnier than the joke. You realise that, don't you?
What I'd Say to the Aliens and Other Deep Thoughts. So he's got a book called Deep Thoughts. No, it's brilliant.
Clearly.
Yeah. He's got a lot of stuff.
Maybe it's in the delivery. Fair enough.
But that's the Sweet Cheeks.
Talk to me about the label.
So children's building blocks. I saw them. Actually, Doug Rigg wrote an article back in the day, and he had ABC. I think it was called the ABCs of natural wine or something. And that inspired me.
The kitty block.
The kitty blocks, ABC on top of each other, and I thought that's it. So I took red, yellow, green, and just splashed them on in Illustrator or whatever it was. Okay. And that's it. Yeah. So one of my more original labels.
Very cool. And I mean, as you've been making this for 10 odd years now,
it's been a while.
Has this gone through iterations, or is it?
Not too much. It's been pretty consistent actually since the beginning. Yeah. And I just think the acidity is the key here. In a lower acid year is where we struggle with this wine, because you need to capture that. So I need to really get it right.
It's a focus.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of the Bandito white and skin macerated whites, which one's the most difficult to make? Which one's the hardest to get right?
I'd say that the most pressure is on the Cortez.
Okay.
because I know that it's an exceptional vineyard site.
Yeah, right.
And
So if you fuck it up, it's your fault.
That's it. That's
essentially.
probably that wine. There's
Okay.
there's not much room to play there.
Yeah.
You got to get that date picking right. Yeah. I'd say that.
And what's the? I mean, is it 1 day, 2 days?
No, it's not quite as tight, but I mean, the thing is, you know, if it's a Friday, most people don't like picking. You know, you want to wait.
Yeah,
till
the grapes are
Monday.
never ready on a Sunday, are they?
So we pick, if we have to pick on a Saturday, we pick on a Saturday.
Yes.
Sundays are very difficult in this country.
Yes.
You know, in Europe, I've worked there. We pick the majority of the grapes are picked on Saturdays and Sundays because
Yeah.
it's when more people are available.
Yes.
But in this country, it's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we pick 6 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
always on Saturdays because there's. But generally, it's picked on a Friday, Saturday around there. But the day's not the point.
No, I understand. Yeah.
The point is when
Yeah.
it's ready.
Yeah, when it's ready.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
It's a fucking lot of wine.
Huh? You're the one who made them, mate. No one made you do this. Or Carla may have done. Bandito red wines.
Okay.
We're almost there, guys. Thank you so much. Jokes. Red wine, you're not making as much red wine as white wine? Why is that?
Did you ask, are we making as much red wine?
No, I'm saying you have less red wines and you are making white wines.
Yes.
Or with
Yeah.
white.
Yeah, no, that's
Well,
true.
why is that? Is
I
it?
think I'm traditionally. I was discussing this with Mick Craven the other day. Actually, we went to a pizza there, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. We're drinking red wine, and I realized I'm more of a white wine person.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm stronger at white wines, and I prefer drinking steely. I like drinking more white wines, and I think that tells in our wines that we make. But obviously, I love red wines and what we do. But the red wines are definitely a more work in progress for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah.
This is 2023, so maybe in 2029 I'll be saying different stuff. But it's definitely and that purely just comes down to the accessibility to the vineyards that we have in this country, and also what we've got planted. And
But you set, sorry to interrupt, but you set quite stringent limits on vineyards you're going to work with and not.
yes.
Is it easier to farm organically with white varieties in
No,
Swartland or not?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
No, it's not that. It's more that we're fortunate to have a wealth of great old Chenin.
Mm-hmm.
Red, we don't.
Not so much.
Yeah, and I think that plays a role. But also the nature of what we've got planted and how it responds to the heat and the pH-wise and acidity. It comes down to acidity and stability, and also the way I'm making it, which is obviously naturally. So that you have, I'm not adding acid to stabilize a wine and drop the pH and things like that. So it makes it more challenging for me with my winemaker hat on. And it's one of the reasons why we bought the land we bought, so that we could truly focus on producing quality in the long term. And I mean, not just, we do think a bit further down the line than 5 years. So, our children, I want to, hopefully they can take over one day, or whoever takes over, just must be my children, that they've got access to the tools to make great wine.
Maybe it'll be the boy next door.
Well, that's fine, as long as Camilla's in control.
Yeah. Well, she's a Hawkins. So.
She's strong.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's basically that. I mean, it's quite deep for just getting straight into the red wines. But that is, I like to be brutally honest, because it's the only way we can learn.
Hang around with Paul too much.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, talk to us through these ones. So the dark side.
So the dark side is our Syrah or Shiraz, and this is a vineyard that I share with Jürgen Gijs and Johan Stompie Meyer. And
No one knows him as Johan, do they?
yeah, not even his wife.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, maybe the police. I don't know.
but yeah, so this is Shiraz from Rick McCrindle, excellent farmer on the coffee clip soils of actually all three of these are on the same soils.
Okay. So this is Abbotsdale.
Side.
Yeah.
And
So just maybe talk when we spoke
so
about Paardeberg.
you have the Paardeberg, and just closer to the ocean you have the extension of the Paardeberg. Deep down there's granite, but on top of that you have the clayey, sandy clayey soils. In Afrikaans you say coffee clip, which means coffee stone. You have the gravel, the small gravel. It looks like coffee
Yeah,
pits.
it's got white iron rich, isn't it? It's got
Iron
orange
rich, yeah.
and
which is great.
but
in
rusty colour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great in a wet year, like we've had, because the soil holds water, but in a very dry, extreme year, like 2017, 18, the soils become like brick.
Oh, okay.
So the water kind of...
So they bake.
Yeah, so you have very low yield. So it's a double-edged sword. But they make beautiful wines, which I like. And I think my reds, I said earlier, I prefer to drink them young. I like juicy reds, and that's what we're doing.
So Syrah, you said off coffee clip, do you prefer Syrah on coffee clip soils and so the granite soils of the Paardeberg?
So, I've worked with a lot of Syrah at Lammerzoek and the Paardeberg and around, and Jürgen and I shared a cellar for some time together. So I tasted a lot of the Shiraz made in a similar way from the Riebeek and all around. And obviously we drink each other's wines. And
yes.
There's the Molyneux make their style. There's lots of different. So there's a lot of There's a big database there to learn from. But I really like this site that Jürgen was working with. I think it goes into his Koolbroek, one of his better reds. But a portion of it, and it just always gave me a slight tightness, which I liked, and also quite pure Syrah notes. This is a wine that
there's no mistaking what this is.
Yeah,
there's no.
And that's
it screams Syrah.
Yeah,
in the best way possible.
And that's our style. I mean, Renan Borman, he makes a very much I would say tighter, more tannic, beautiful Syrah from Stellenbosch, but this is not that. This is a softer version. Yeah. Slightly different, and I love his wines, and this is what we do. So, but I don't think this is going to age millions of years.
Okay.
It's more
just thousands of years.
Just maybe, for 3 to 5 years is probably when it's best, and that's how I make it.
Yeah.
Purely.
And is that pretty much true for all the reds that you make currently? Or
yes, but the Mavet will go, and these two will probably go a bit longer.
Okay.
Much lower pH, or traditionally over a few vintages, much lower pH.
Okay. And how are you making the Syrah?
Or whole bunch.
Okay.
I use the stems just to give you a perception of acidity and give you more structure and tannin, which in itself protects the wine. But it's not more about protecting the wine; it's about making the best wine we can.
Yeah. So the bunches give you more tannin and structure, and does that sort of tightness imply acidity?
Yes.
Because it doesn't actually add
I'm looking for grip and texture.
Yeah.
The same way I use the skins on the white is the way I'm using the stems on the reds to give you that depth. And that I think it works quite well. Yeah.
Cool. No, it's really fragrance.
Yeah.
Why the dark side?
Yeah, it's just nothing to do with Star Wars.
No?
It's just more Syrah is, they say it's like salt and pepper, which is black and white. You get this. So I put the black and white label, the dark side, because it can tend towards the dark side if you let it go. But that's pretty much that's just pretty much it.
Okay.
A very simple label to decide as well.
Yeah.
I think we did it in 2015.
Did you have an early tea time that morning? Like, did it go?
No, it was. I like it.
I've already paid for the font, so I might as well use it.
Yeah, Georgia.
Georgia.
It is. So, that's that. That's, I think,
cool.
solid wine. In the last couple of vintages, I think we got it more right than previously. Yeah.
And you went pretty hard on the back label here?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome to the dark side.
No, this is welcome.
Exactly. To the dark side. Yeah. No, my back labels, no one ever accused me of being deep. So.
Very cool. Next one, Green of Spades.
Yeah, these are my two favorite red wine labels.
Look at this out of the way.
I just they go kind of hand in hand.
Okay.
Pair. So Kevin Short, Brian Short's, he works for my importer Pascal in the USA, but he did a couple of harvests with me. His brother, avid photographer, he took these photos at Burning Man Festival. The monkey gone to heaven is his wife on a bike, but this is of something burning at Burning Man. And I just put a heart over it.
Wonder what could be burning at Burning Man.
It's an amazing photo. I mean, there's a woman wearing a leopard skin with a bear, and she's got a wolf thing on her head, and burning. And I put the heart there. It's just, I love that idea of heart burning. And
yes.
I just think it's quite.
You
cool.
like that sort of layered effect, don't you?
Yeah. I like it. So I just put it on. It just came to me sometime, and we call it Queen of Spades. That was also Queen of Spades because it's a heart. So it just works
Did the name come before the heart, or the heart came after the name? Or?
together.
Together,
Yeah.
okay.
I was going to call it Queen of Hearts, but then that's a bit too much.
But why Spades? What's the...
Spades are darker. I don't know.
I'm sorry I asked now.
No, it's just because it's not hearts. Queen of Clubs is not quite the same effect, or Queen of Diamonds.
I don't know.
Spades is generally seen as your pinnacle, like the Ace of Spades is your top card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the key card. All right.
Yeah.
What is this wine?
This is Tinta Amarilla.
Okay.
Yeah, which is also known as Trincadeira. So the grape we worked with, Dirk made a lot of in Portugal. They use it a lot there in the red blends for acidity.
So were you familiar with it there?
No,
or?
I was only once I started working there in 2008 did I come across the grape.
Yes. And then you came back and looked for it, or just came?
No, I
across
just came back and I discovered Rick. You know, I was buying the Cinsault and the Shiraz from him, and just next to it, it's like, what's this? There's a tiny little block there, and that was where the Viognier was, and co-planted with, or next to it was the Tinta Amarilla.
Okay.
He planted it thinking it was Tempranillo in 2000.
So he bought it and planted it as Tempranillo, and then
He bought the vines. He bought the farm
Yeah.
in 98 or something. He started planting in 2000, but he planted that thinking it was Tempranillo,
okay.
and it was Tinta Amarilla.
When did he find that out?
Maybe 4, 5, 6 years later.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm not sure, but I wasn't around then.
Yeah. And
in
what
his
happened
circles.
with Savas? Did they have to
They must have, yeah.
change it, or
They did, yeah.
Okay.
So they probably made it. It's Tinta Amarilla on the
Okay.
cards, yeah.
It's registered as Tinta Amarilla?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Good question, actually. But, yeah. So that was that. But it makes very high, traditionally decent acidity reds, high acid. It's got good.
And the
Great
theme,
structure.
the theme of the day is like Swartland. We're always looking for
Yeah.
acid, so
And grapes that work in a hot climate.
it
So,
seems like it's a perfect fit.
yeah, exactly. And the only grape here that you wouldn't say would fit in our climate would be Shannon, but it's adapted to our climate.
But it's high acid, so
Yeah, and it's worked. So it shows you what can and can't goes. But
yeah.
yeah, so this one, we also ferment on the stems for the same thing to coax as much flavor and tannin out of it. It's one of our most intriguing wines. We only make 500 liters. It's only 300 vines as well, so it's a tiny amount.
Okay.
We get a bit more, much bigger bunches than, for instance, the Viognier, which is also 300 vines.
And how much time is this spending on skins? What's the extraction?
This was about, also, it's very similar to the whites, about 12 to 15 days. Depends.
Okay.
Yeah, so a bit more, but it's much more.
So much more than the baby Banditos, for example.
Not too much more,
Okay.
but a bit more, but maybe a couple of days. But the
Okay.
difference is that a lot of the bunches are still attached, the berries are still attached to the bunches, so
Okay.
you're having a lot of the intracellular fermentation. So when you press it, there is a bit of sugar left. So that's why it goes again into a stainless steel tank to go dry, then into barrel.
Okay.
Yeah. We just find you have more problems if you have sweet red wine in a barrel than half semi-fermented red in a barrel. You're asking for problems.
Oh, really?
In South
It won't continue to ferment?
Yeah, and you pick up bacteria, and it's slow because it's the tail end of the ferment. So
Oh, I see.
in stainless
Okay.
steel, it just tends to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once it's dry, you put it in.
Yeah. After 5 days, it goes dry, and then you put
Okay.
it. Yeah.
And is it a variety that you're wanting to work with more?
Yeah, definitely. There's a farmer. So the one with Carl's cap on it, they keep on punching and Mouton's hook. We're looking at planting. This we've got the vines, so planting this in some Grenache and Maved, and definitely planting more. This definitely belongs in the Swartland.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
And the wine itself, what are we looking for here? What are we expecting if we buy?
It's a bit of.
This bottle.
It's not a mixed bag, but you get spiciness. A lot of spiciness. There's a bit of smokiness.
Like spiciness, like pepper, or
Yeah, definitely peppers, but also more. It gives you this different kind of texture that we're looking for. But there's often in some vintages you have a lot of fruit. I mean, you got these perfect berries. They're very round and look beautiful and like nice big bunches. So it gives you that kind of red fruit with the texture that we're looking for. So it's quite a serious wine actually in its own right. But you see the beautiful color.
yeah.
And you have this. But in this vintage, you have this.
It's a floralness to it as well.
Now
quite
it's coming,
lifted.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of. I mean, it's been open a while now. The fruit comes to the fore, and you get that. The stems definitely give you that. Like, I'm influenced a lot by, I know you like Luca Arania's wines. I love the Northern Italian reds, but I love the Dolcettos, that very fruit forward, but still has the tannin. That's kind of the inspiration behind this wine, actually.
There's a real punch to the fruit, though. There's a real sort of forward.
Definitely.
Fruit forward is not the right word, but front palate focus for the fruit, and then the back is all about structure and spice, which is lovely.
No, it's thanks.
Yeah,
no.
very, very nice.
And then we have the Monkey Gone to Heaven, which is Mourvedre.
Okay.
Mourvedre, which is a fantastic grape for our region. It ripens, it's the last grape we always harvest, purely because that's just when it gets ripe.
And give us an approximate
range
date.
So like towards the end of Feb.
Okay. What's the first thing you're harvesting?
Which will be the I Am the Ninja, which is the pet nut, and then the Keep on Punching, which is around the 15th of Jan.
Okay.
15th. But we pick the Keep on Punching over a stage of 2 weeks.
Okay.
It's many different picks.
And so roughly 4 or 5 weeks of picking?
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Around there. Yeah,
Okay.
4 or 5 weeks. So
And what sort of, for these wines, the Bandit and the Mielie ones, because I know you've got some other bits and pieces, what sort of volumes are you doing, either bottles or tons wise?
So
just in general. Sorry, I don't
general,
mean to digress, but
so in total, we're doing between any given vintage between 120 140,000 bottles.
Okay.
Of all these wines, yeah.
Okay, right.
So that's it's a good size for us. I'd say make it 150 in a good year. A lot of these the small bits. The biggest volume would be the Keep on Punching.
Yeah.
It's around 20,000 bottles.
120,000. Everything else is 48 bottles. Excellent.
So it's a lot of we separate everything.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Lots of tanks.
Yeah, lot going on.
Lots of vessels.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, so the Mourvedre is called Monkey Gone to Heaven, which is a grape from a song by the Pixies. I love the Pixies. I love that label, and Kevin's wife's riding around on a bicycle at Burning Man Festival, and she's having fun. She's a monkey gone to heaven. So that's kind of, I think it fits. It's a bit of a not a dark song, but the label's got a dark edge to it, and it fits the wine well. It's quite moody.
Yeah,
Mourvedre is quite moody actually.
Yeah, right.
But it's a delicious velvety wine, and I absolutely love it. These two are probably my two most nuanced red wines that we work with.
Yeah,
make.
Mourvedre, your good friend, our good friend Jürgen is a very big fan of, and increasingly so.
Yeah.
Are you of the same?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's good. We share this block actually. He's got some other parcels as well, but I planted some on our farm, Bandits Kloof, and it definitely works really well in the heat. The birds love it as well. So
yeah. Why do birds love it? You don't have no idea.
It's also because it hangs. It's the last grape to come.
Oh, because there's nothing else. There's nothing else available. Okay,
and
right.
the birds also, they don't go for the white grapes as much because they don't see it.
Yeah, right.
They see the dark berries, so they go. That's basically it.
Fair enough. And Swartland Mourvedre, what are we expecting in this wine? What do you find in this wine normally?
Look, there's the layers. Velvetiness on the palate, but you can get a lot of fruit. Mourvedre has often been criticised as being quite wild, which it can go. But I get actually quite a bit of fruit on this, which I like. But on the palate, you have the tannins and the texture to go with it.
Yeah, your Mourvedre doesn't tend to be as wild as others.
No, not at all.
Why do you think that is?
Don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I can't say why not. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's
what's the elevage here?
So this is just in 500 litre barrels.
Okay.
Very simple.
So nothing too controversial.
Nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'd like to start getting maybe some 2,000 litre concrete tanks and see what happens. But we'll get there. But I keep it simple. I love old barrels. They've tried and tested, been around a while.
They're proven.
They're proven.
Yeah.
Old French barrels. I mean, there's some of the best wines I've ever had out of that. So
cool.
Try not to deviate too much.
Last Bandito range we're looking at is Method Ancestral, Pet Nats. How do you refer to them? The ninjas.
The ninjas, yeah. These are the pair of ninjas.
The pair of ninjas.
There's no plural for ninjas, it's just ninjas. But
I think ninjas is the plural for ninja, right?
It's been a long evening.
Does.
So we started.
Why Pet Nat, by the way?
I love Pet Nat. But I love a serious Pet Nat.
Right.
Let's put it that way. these are also not necessarily like taken seriously, but people drink them. But
Again, what's on the outside is not super serious, but what's in the inside is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and we have a lot of fun with these wines. They're very well received. But I started actually my first pet was 2011, back in Lamazuk days, which is a while ago. But I was inspired by Pascal Potter from Domaine Le Capriat. Yes. Inadvertently, who I met that made the wine that changed the way I thought about all wines back in 2007. Anyway, but he makes delicious pet nuts which can age very long. So I had some stuff from the early 2000s from him. He's been doing it for a very long time in his cave there. In the Loire, they're troglodyte, so they got that cave, and it's incredible.
See sunlight once a year,
and he's but he's a genius at it. He only makes it. He does 45,000 bottles, disgorge everything by hand. Like he goes, and he gave me a lot of his time and insight and knowledge, which I'm very grateful for. But it also, I really preferred the ones with a bit of sugar and acidity, and that's where it came.
I'm going to ask you, why do you love it? Well, you said you love it. What do you like?
I like the challenge that it brings, but I also love to drink these wines.
Why? What is it about?
It's they're joyous. They're uplifting. It's like a tonic. The gin and tonic at the end of the day can lift you up. A tonic is like exactly that. It gives you a boost, and I find these do the same. When you have the right combination of acid and sugar, they're very uplifting. And I find it
with bubbles, obviously.
With the gas. Yeah, it gives you another level. It's like having you can drink wine all day. It's still wine, and then you have a glass of this. It kind of just sprites you up a bit. And that's the idea with it. I mean, and that's what I want people to feel when they drink these wines. It's why I called them I am the ninja, and I wish I was a ninja, because I want people to be happy and laugh. I have yet to see somebody not smile when they see the name of the wine. If they don't, then
But the smiling when you bring up "I wish I was a ninja," and then they like lose their shit essentially when you say, "Well, next one's called I am."
Yeah, no, it is. So they come in pairs. So, excuse me. The I wish I was a ninja actually came first.
Yes.
So 2015 we started that. Paul Jordan on the label. I took that photo in 2014. He's now quite a very famous winemaker. Makes a wine called Borsberat. And we have a big pool party, not just me and him, but a whole bunch of people.
Just a
small
party between
Swartland party. Yeah, I photoshopped all the beer bottles that all behind him out, but he was just chilling there. I said, just keep still. And I took a photo with my iPhone and thought nothing of it. And then I came back. I was like, that's a very cool photo. So I brightened it up a bit, and I put some like purple. There was white wine in there. I made it purple just because I can. And then he really does wish he was a ninja, so I called it. That's it. And I think it encapsulates the feeling I want of people to feel when they drink the wine. Okay. It's 8% alcohol, 8.5. Yeah. It's got 30 grams of sugar, but it's got 11 to 12 grams of acid, which is a lot. So it's like my sour sweet wine.
How variable are those numbers though from vintage?
Depends on the year. So like 2020, which is the 23 is that. Most vintages are like that. 2022. The wine did mellow in bottle, so it kind of softened that, and the acid dropped out. So it's much rounder, it feels more sweeter, but it's still but when it does mellow, it brings another layer to it, which I find more depth. Ideally, I don't want it to do mellow in bottle. It generally doesn't, but last year it did do that.
Before we move on,
this
is another new variety that we haven't spoken about.
Yeah, this is Colombar. Yeah. Colombar is not a grape, but very traditionally, it's not very common in like still wines.
It's not a fine wine variety, is it?
No, not at all. Yeah. And I was looking for Pascal, like they're working with grapes with a lot of like high acid there, and I really when I was looking for a grape, not just Chenin, because Chenin gives you depth, but I was looking for something that's simple that just gives you acid but fruit as well, and that's
like brightness,
and that's what perfect Colombar, perfect for that. So it's a vineyard, that gives us that, and it gives you that pears and apples on the nose, and then acid underneath.
Is it a little bit like Hanaput that you need that sort of extra technique to give it some depth and some?
I think so.
Otherwise, it's a pretty inert variety.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I find it. I mean, there's guys doing great examples of dry, like Tremaine Smith. They're making, he makes awesome dry table wine from Colombar, but I prefer it for us with this vineyard with sugar, and it brings you the brightness and the zest.
I mean, there's a lot of Colombar in South Africa, mainly because of our
history,
the brandy
culture, yeah.
industry.
So,
So a lot of it, most of it gets distilled.
most of it is distilled,
Yeah.
purely because, like with Shannon actually as well, it was planted for high acid, neutral flavors that
Yes.
you could distill. So we left with a lot of these vineyards, and it works really well.
So is this an expandable wine for you, or is it too? I mean, it seems like it's quite difficult to make.
It is very difficult. These are the two most difficult wines to us because it's about consistency. I don't want to just
Maybe quickly run us through the timeline of
definitely.
Of
So
of
I mean, I don't want to
process.
make. So this is disgorged, right? So I ferment it. I take the tank.
Start with the grapes.
I take the. I meant the grapes. I take the grapes. I put them into the tank. So I press it a whole bunch, goes in the tank, and I actually keep. It's the only one I use.
So you got
cleaning on.
juice in a tank.
The juice in the tank, and I keep the tank at 2 to 3 degrees for a month. So that just keeps it completely
And you said
stable.
you're picking this like mid-January.
Mid to late Jan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first grapes in.
This is the first grapes in.
Yeah.
This is late Jan. It gets riper a bit later.
Okay.
And then I keep it cold, really cold. It helps stabilize it in terms of makes it very clear. So it settles out all the lees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then I rack it a few times after that. And then after I've pressed my last grapes, which is normally the Mourvèdre, then I let the tank warm up.
And that's what late
March.
March.
Late
okay.
Feb, when I have a handle on things, I let it warm up.
Mm-hmm.
This happens naturally in the Loire. It's much colder there underground. But
You have to replicate that here.
yeah, also just because otherwise it speeds through, and I like it to be held. And when I'm ready, then I focus all my attention on it. Then it warms up in tank, and then I bottle it at. Depends on the acidity, but I work at. Pascal helped me a lot with this, but back in the day. But I figured it out now. Basically we work on about 4 to 5 grams per liter sugar of fermentation, give you 1 bar of pressure.
Okay.
At around 5 to 6 bars, which is quite high, fermentation stops.
Okay.
So you got to work
in the bottle.
In the bottle. So you
Yes.
got to work back from there.
Yeah, right.
That's
so
why
it's
it needs to be-
reverse engineer the numbers.
Exactly. So it needs to be
Okay.
very clean. So I balance the acid and the sugar.
Okay.
So I want-
once it warms up and fermentation kicks off, are you adding a little something to kick it off, or are you just
I
kick it off
do.
pretty quickly?
If I find if it's very clean, sometimes it's not. There's often not a lot fermenting at that time, but I
Yeah.
will take a bucket of something with semi-fermentation just to kick it off.
Yeah.
Normally they keep on punching. There's something normally going there.
Yeah.
But that just helps that the yeast not stress too much.
Yes.
Because it's very cold, and clean. So we, and then so at 60 grams per liter, if you're still following at 60 grams per liter sugar.
Yeah. For those at home.
Yeah, at 60 grams per liter sugar, I bottle it because I know it'll ferment down to around 30.
Yeah.
Because the acid is around 12.
When
And
you're
it'll
picking, what is the sugar when you're picking?
It doesn't matter. It's on the acid.
No, I understand, but what does that relate to? What does that end up at?
It's
that's
probably
not
around
my-
180 grams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you fermented at 120 of it, plus minus?
Yeah, it goes down to around.
goes
So
down to
basically, it doesn't
60?
actually matter where it is. It's about the acid and the sugar balance in the
Understand.
bottle.
Yeah.
Then I work back from that. So 30 grams per liter sugar gives you 5 bar pressure.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at that, so I add. So 30, so at around 60 is when I know I need to bottle with that acidity. If there was lower acid, I would bottle it at around 50.
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's about sugar and acid balance. It's very.
So the question is, I'm leading up to a question here.
I hope not.
I'm approaching it from all angles.
Okay.
How long is it fermenting in tank before you bottle it, more or less?
But it's very slow by South African standards.
Yeah.
It's obviously all natural yeast, so it's around 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Right.
bottling this towards the end of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
And bottling, is it? Do you have to be gentle? Can you disturb?
No,
the
I
ferment,
don't
or-
stir it. I try not
Yeah.
to. That's my final racking. The bottling guy comes in, we just bottle as quick
Okay.
as possible.
Right.
And that's how you get consistency.
Yes.
Because there's absolutely no sulfur. There's nothing added to these wines. So there's
So it's literally
the total
just
sulfur
grapes.
on this is 2.
Just grapes. Yeah.
And more tree, there's nothing. So it is just grapes. Yeah.
Okay. So you're bottling, bang.
Ground cap.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then it spends another 10 months in bottle, aging on the lees. And then I riddle it. And then you have a tiny amount of lees, and I disgorge it, freeze the neck.
So it's super clean when you're bottling.
Very clean, yeah.
Okay.
We disgorge.
Yeah.
That's how you can get consistency. Then normally there's no loss. Normally it's around there. So
Okay.
So you actually don't really need.
And
to
on
top
these
it up.
bottles, 750 is about there anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's fine. But if we do need to top it, I'll add a bit of dry white wine, and then crown cap it, and it's off.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how you get the. We've had it. Otherwise you have. I'm not one of those guys that makes a pet nat as cloudy as hell, and then you open it, it hits the roof and doesn't stop.
And then you're like.
The only issue we can get over time is the build-up of tartrates, which make it. But we're getting quite technical and stuff.
Yeah.
So
there's two of them.
yeah. So the other one.
Colombard.
And the other one is from Shannon.
And this one, you're talking about sour sweet for this one.
Yeah, like a cabinet,
Okay.
which I love drinking. So 8%, and that's it. Yeah, that's literally what you get. So serve it cold. Even people drink it on ice, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you're working with such clean juice and you're degorging, you've got no fears of like second fermentation with the sugar there. And
It can, but when it's clean,
Yeah.
you don't get that. The only thing that can happen is mallow, but then it just softens out a bit. But generally, the pressure stops that.
Okay.
That's why it needs to be quite clean.
Yeah.
And then you got I Am the Ninja.
Yes.
Photo taken by Marty Sharonrock. He lives in London, but that's his dog, Layla. And he approached me at one of the wine fairs, and a South African guy, coming to another South African guy, he said, should we go for a braai? And,
In the middle of London. Yeah, why not?
with his brother. They're big supporters of our wine, Raoul and Marty. They're awesome. So, yeah, and that's what I love about the beauty of the wine world, and particularly the natural wine world. It's very open. You can, at these very fancy wine fairs, that won't happen. Or so I say. But it's.
Yeah, I would disagree. Because I think,
Okay.
what's better than sharing a great bottle of wine with someone who's going to enjoy it?
Yeah.
That's the reason why you buy the wine.
No, but I'm saying these guys literally just came into my stand and said, let's go for a braai.
Yeah.
So no, anyway, we literally digressing, but this is the portion of the vineyard of Keep On Punching, very close to the river, much higher acidity in the wine. So I picked this very early.
So same vineyard.
Yeah, same vineyard, next to the river, closest to the river. I pick it first, goes into the pet nut.
But much drier than
Much drier. So the idea with this is to make a one sweet sour, one sugar and acid, a bit of sugar,
But not bone dry.
not bone dry. Yeah.
What's the sort of...
That's 11 grams acid,
Yeah.
sugar, and this is 30 grams sugar, but that's got 6 acid and it's got 11 acid.
And that roughly those are numbers that you're...
Yeah, that's what I.
More or less like from year to
That's
year.
what I'm wanting. Yeah, fair enough.
Within the range.
Close enough.
Yeah.
And yeah, but this one, Shannon, I just find gives you more depth.
Yeah.
And so this is.
I mean, Colombard is, as you say, it's a pretty
Yeah.
inert variety, so you need to...
Yeah, and I'm experimenting now with aging the wine on the lees for a lot longer. I've held some back, 300 bottles of each, just to age it for a couple of years on the lees and see what happens.
Cool.
Yeah,
Interesting.
cool.
The debut,
Same thing.
the maiden vintage of Bandits Kloof, Daisy's Pond. Very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
So this is, you've got Baby Bandito, you've got Mielie, you've got El Bandito, and this is
Bandits Kloof.
Bandits Kloof.
Yeah, so Kloof in Afrikaans is a ravine, a small valley, or ravine. So we live on the mountain. There's lots of different kloofs, so lots of ravines where the streams flow down, and that's
Yes.
so we called our farm Bandits Kloof, which is quite special. So this is the property we purchased in 2015. There was a couple of old houses on it and a building which we converted into our cellar. Like I said, no electricity, a very rustic place, which meant it was very affordable for us as people with no money. It was really like dirt cheap, but it came with a lot of potential, which we're starting to realize now.
Hopefully you realise it at the point of purchase as well.
Yeah, no, we saw it, but it means when I mean physically realize it.
Yes.
It's taken a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we're transforming the place into our home, which is really nice. We've literally finishing building our first home. Carla and I have always lived in a tiny little one-bedroom house. Now we've got 2 kids, and it's crazy.
It's even tinier.
Yeah, it's even tinier. So it's nice to build our own home. But so this is the full circle. I think this is where it ends, literally. And we've got Baby Bandito, El Bandito. The Mielie's like the intro to the intro, but the Bandits Kloof is where it ends. So these are our home vineyards.
So everything else has been leading up to this point, essentially.
100%.
Yeah.
It started with the Bandito,
Quite a long road.
and it ends. It definitely. Yeah. No, we've been here 3 hours.
14 hours.
Yeah, so it's
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I'm very proud to be sitting here actually with you and having this. Yeah, it's a label. We've only just labeled it. Our bottle. It's a 2021 vintage. So
Yeah. So this is 2 years older than the other one. Every other one.
it is. Yeah. So and it's made.
You didn't forget it in the cellar.
No, no.
Deliberate.
It's deliberately made this way. So Grenache Blanc from the farm. My daughter Camilla was born in 2018. The same year we started planting vineyards, which happened to be this vineyard. So on the back label I put, it's called Daisy's Pond because my dog Daisy, there's a pond next to the vineyard and she loves swimming in it. But I put on the back label, I said the first wine from the first vines for Camilla and Daniel. That's my children.
Very nice.
And then I read it. She loves Dr. Seuss, purely because I love Dr. Seuss. But she says, and I'll put there, the places you will go. So it's actually quite a
cool book, by the way.
yeah, it's great. And I think there's a strong message there. And hopefully they look back one day and they happy with what we've done.
I noticed something about the wine that I haven't noticed before, sitting here.
Yeah.
It's the only wine that I think has the variety on it.
Well done.
Why is that?
I just thought it was time.
Right.
To put the variety on the label. The Mielies have it as well, but this I put Grenache Blanc because I think it's clear.
Yeah, right.
And I want people, I'm tired of confusing people. But it's also purely because I know that down the line we are going to, the whites, the Daisy's Pond will always be the best white we can make from the farm. And that will be,
so Daisy's Pond is going to maybe change.
That's the way we're thinking. I say that now
okay.
on
All
record.
right.
But Daisy's Pond is that vineyard, but it could be a blend of Grenache and Macabou.
I see.
Or Grenache and Roussanne.
So essentially, if I'm hearing you correctly, which is not that often.
Yeah.
Daisy's Pond is the white wine from Bandits.
Yes.
And obviously you've got Marsanne there, you've got Vira,
yeah.
So there could be a blend of things, or it could be little sections of depending on the
Bandits. Whenever you see Bandits Kloof in these initial stages,
yes,
because they're young vines, I think it's only fair to you and people that are drinking the wine that that we will only release Bandits Kloof when we feel it's the best wine that we can do from the farm. There might be vintages where we don't make it one.
Yes, I mean, as you said, there was some Bandits Kloof fruit in the Mielie Green.
Exactly. Yeah, we just didn't make the grade for that. No,
Yeah.
it's not quite there yet. So that's the whole idea with that. And the label is I love it. It's on nice textured paper, but it's also a label where we put it's by Craig and Hawkins. So
Colours on board.
Very important.
Yeah.
But also when Camilla was born, I spray painted that Banksy stencil on her door, but it's got red balloons. She loves it, and so I paid for the stencil and I incorporated it into the label. So it's a little connection to her. And I have another vineyard of London Palut, which was planted the same year as Daniel was born. So maybe one day
we'll like hairy Grenache essentially.
We'll exactly
hairy leaf Grenache.
And he is a little bit hairy, so so maybe it'll be for him too.
Okay, cool. This wine's 2 years older than everything else.
Yeah. So
in terms of you've planted these vines.
Yes.
You've been raising these vines. Your Skun Ma has been pruning these vines.
Yes.
Working like a slave.
Yeah.
Cracking the whip.
Yeah. So this vineyard actually we prune.
I mean, some of the vines are taller than her.
Yeah, they're big. We prune them in it's the head train system from America. The big bush vines off the ground, about that high.
So it's like a head train, but a bush vine on a stocky.
On a stake, yeah, exactly. So it's very high off the ground, and it works really well. They become like little trees, which is awesome. But it makes exceptional wine. I mean, the acidity on this is exactly what I'm looking for. The pH is low, and also it's made almost identically to the way I made my very first Cortez, which is 20 months on the lees, no sulfur, nothing, and I love the 09 vintage.
So a whole bunch pressed into what?
Into old barrels, 2 old 500-litre barrels.
Yeah.
And it's just got that drive that I'm looking for, and that exuberance, acidity that we look for. Yeah.
As of 21, what was the size of the Grenache Blanc vineyard?
It's 0.7 hectares.
Okay.
So it was our first crop. So with the first 3 years, you drop the grapes. The fourth year,
understand.
we kept one bunch of shoot.
And so how much wine did you end up with in 21?
That.
No matter how much, like
2 barrels.
Just 2 barrels. Okay.
And it was good enough it made the grade. So we obviously, the next vintage we've got 5 barrels because it's a young vineyard yielding. So what we do is we've selected what we feel is the best barrels for that, and we bottled that as the 22, and so on. Yeah.
And yeah, you bottled it with the 22, so it had an extra year of élevage.
Yeah.
Is that going to be? I mean, everything else is like bottled and released in the same year.
I know.
And
Yeah.
This is. I mean, this is quite a big departure.
Huge. Yeah, and I think it's fair. The whole thing is we release it when we feel is best for the wine. It's a massive asset. So
yes.
So that in 21 we didn't feel was at its best, and we wanted to be judged accordingly. We had the time and the patience to be able to do it.
Essentially, it's 2 barrels. So it's not going to.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's quite special in that regard. It can, and it ties in nicely with what we're doing.
So you fermented 2 other Grenache Blancs since then, obviously.
Yeah.
What
So
are they looking similar-ish? What's the?
They are.
Okay.
The 22 is in bottle, but slightly lower acid, just a function of the vintage. 21 is a massive acid year. But 22s, they're beautiful, and it's aging now in bottle for another year. So this time next year we'll be.
So did you bottle the 22 with the 23s?
Yes,
as you did here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and the 23 is still in barrel.
Okay,
Yeah.
so similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it still holds up.
Okay.
To be able to do that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what else is you've got Grenache Blanc? You've talked about for you. We've talked about Marsanne.
So we planted a field, not a field blend, but a mixed block, but with separated the rows, but of Marsanne, Roussanne, Grenache Blanc. Idea is to blend all those together and make a acidity from Grenache Blanc.
That's a separate
The wax.
block in this.
Yes, they're all separate. So we've got separate blocks: Grenache Noir, Grenache Blanc. We've got Marsanne, Roussanne, Grenache Blanc, London Palute, and we've got Mourvèdre, Carignan, and Maccabee. And then we're going to.
Is that all on the same slope?
On different slopes. It's quite an intricate slope farm. There's a lot of the London Palute is south facing. This is east facing. Other ones are northeast facing. There's a lot of variances. A lot of huge soil variation.
Are you avoiding north facing because of the sun? I mean,
North facing? No, because we don't have it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's why you bought that.
Yeah, on the farm. Yeah, we just don't have a north facing slope.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful property, but it's got a lot of variances. One of the reasons we bought it. There's a lot to work with there.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, on that note, thank you, Craig, for going through what seems like, 20 wines, I think? 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, 19 wines, I believe, and, a few beers. Thank you, Craig, leading us through a little history on TESTALONGA and a journey through each of your wines. It's an incredible privilege to be able to work with you and Carla and your wines, and over the last 10 or so years to see the growth and the quality, not only of the wines, but of your whole operation. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
See where you've come from, as you say,
From the streets.
A teen, from living under a bridge now. From a 10,000 bottle operation to what you're doing now, and buying a farm and really changing lives on that farm as well. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's a shining light of viticulture and wine in South Africa. So thanks so much.
That's kind
and
words.
thank you very much for bearing with us. It was a long one, but I hope it was worth it. It was worth it for me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and thanks, Craig.
I'm not sure there's anybody left there.
Yeah, they're all gone.
If you made it this far, then thank you.
Yeah. Put your phone on charge.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Thank you.